Race Shop.
Hey, everybody, thank you for joining us this evening. Welcome back to the Cool Kids Club. God, it's so weird to say that it actually exists now after a couple of years of dreaming this and a few months of trying to put this together. And we're up to our third episode. Holy crap. It's almost like we're official and everything. Right, Sean? Right, Sean?
Yes.
Yes. So, the plan was that I always have these grandiose plans that never seem to work out like I plan. But the plan was that we'd get together in an evening after work and have that drink together that I've told you about, and we're going to do that. But it'd be 5 or 6 in the evening, and now, crap, my clock says it's almost 10 o'clock at night. And here's why. What is wrong with us idiots? Well, I can tell you what's wrong. We have damn race cars. That's what's wrong. So just as it coincidentally worked out, Woodburn is having their last event of the season called the Fall Classic, and so we drag our hot rod out there almost every year, and so we're out there. So we were trying to get a hit in today. Today's actually Friday as we record this, and so we worked our tail off after a lot of maintenance on the car. I'll talk about it another time. So we're excited because the car seems like it's responding. Maybe it'll actually run semi-competitive numbers. And then they shut the lanes down and said, crap, save it for another day. So the good news is they didn't have any more maintenance to do. The bad news is we didn't get to run our car. But anyway, so the point of all that is, initially, I heard that Darian was coming down. So I called him and said, hey, here's the deal. You want to come on this deal? Because I talked to him about it 2 years ago. So I got him to sign up. And then he got sick. Crap. So it's just hard to get people down here. Well, then I heard the rumor that a friend of mine was coming down too. I said, oh, this will work. So I called Randy Parker, who's here with me tonight, and I'm elated to do this because Randy and I go back a long ways. A long
time.
So welcome. First off, welcome to the Cool Kids Club podcast. Thank you for being here. This is so cool to have you. I'm really happy. Thank you.
No, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
It's cool. It's a lot of fun, especially the drinking part. We'll get to that briefly. So anyway, Randy and I go back a long, long ways. My first time at the drag strip to be working on a car was working on his car, and the first day that I was there, had this gorgeous blue Trans Am alcohol funny car, and it crashed that day. And I always thought, wow, that's a bad omen. My first day to start, and we crashed a darn race car. That was a bad deal. You remember that?
Oh, yeah, very well. I remember how, I guess jumping ahead of the story.
That's right.
At the finish line, so Sunday morning, first round, beat the guy to the stripe, pull the chutes, and you're happy. You won a round.
You won. It's a big deal.
The car is turned sideways.
Oh, that's not good.
And everything, you wouldn't believe how quiet everything got other than the howling tires. And then eventually the car went into, this goes back, like Gregg said, a long time ago, before they had the cement walls in place.
Was it before that?
Before then. And it was the Armico guardrail that you see on the highway, but it was double stacked for the shutdown. Car went right underneath it, literally cut the body and chassis in two at the front of the motor.
Wow. So the steel guardrails.
Yes.
Those things are so dangerous. You talk about getting ahead of the story, but you know Tim McAmus.
Yes.
He's got some really funny videos. He's hilarious. Anyways, got one talking about if you tow your hot rod to some track you've never been to, don't just assume that they're set up to run a car at the level that we're typically talking about. Go check, doggone it, and talk about the EMTs and what they have. But he talks about those steel guardrails too.
Yes.
And how terribly dangerous those are. And they just act like knives to cut everything in half. It's
horrible. Fire bottles. Cut the ends off the fire bottles. They were, you're familiar with Woodburn. The ends of those fire bottles were well out in the fields.
No kidding.
Yes.
So we're way ahead of the story, but now you got me really curious. Was that at all instrumental in them getting rid of the damn things?
Well, yeah, because they had there had been other issues, and so NHRA had already, it was in the plans.
Gotcha.
And I even believe that at the time they had started putting cement down the quarter, but not the shutdown.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing ever go wrong there. Yeah, of course not.
No, never.
Yeah, of course not. Anyway, so now I need to back up a little bit. So I remember that had to be 94-ish, somewhere in there.
No, before that.
Was it before that?
91. If I'm pulling,
really?
If I'm pulling a number out, I'm going to tell you 91.
Oh my God, that's really depressing. It just means how old you are. That's what
Yes.
it means. Oh my God. Ugh. As it was before I started CBM. I'm really digressing, guys. You guys don't care about when we did this, but it means something to us. Anyway, it was just a long dang time ago, and just a lot of water on the bridge. So, starting with race cars, which we'll show you some pictures of here in a bit. But now he and his bride campaign a really badass A fuel car, which really sucks for me because it's in the other lane a lot, but it hauls the mail. It's a hell of a good car. And Randy and Kim are dear friends and have been so for a long time. I mention on most every recording I do this deal I saw in Joey's car years ago. This sticker that said enemies for 5 seconds and friends for life. And boy, it's really true. And that's one of the best parts is I remember the first points race we were at with Trevor driving, and we had challenges with the car. So we we're number 9, which means we're outside the field. But you guys had heard a rear end.
Yes.
And Trevor's already packing up to go home. I said, hey, you need to go find out because I don't know if they're going to get the thing together. It was a rear end problem, which is not easy to get around. And you guys didn't have the parts.
Well, not only was it the rear end, it also took out the reverser.
Oh, crap. Oh, that's right.
That's right, because your rear end did not work in our car.
No.
But bless his soul, Rick Hinkleman
Yes.
had a spare,
Yes.
but not an entire rear end. It was only the center.
Oh, wow.
So I had to fully disassemble ours.
Oh, God.
Put the hub. Well,
That's a lot
and
of
naturally,
work.
you would have to change the mounting plates because they're
of
different
course.
from car to car.
Yeah.
So not only are we putting in the rear end, I had borrowed your reverser.
That's right. That's
and unfortunately, it took modification. So it's like, Greg, can I? And he's like,
I don't care.
whatever.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
I'd forgotten about that. That's right. But
And-
that's one of the cool parts is we help each other out.
Oh yes, it was a big effort among a lot of people because your normal crew has to do the normal maintenance.
Right. So this is
And-
above and beyond the normal stuff.
Yes.
Right.
And I was still as a tuner of the car did not have time to do any downloads
Right. Oh, wow.
or do any tuning.
Right.
It was and we never even got a chance to fire it.
Oh, wow.
The first time we pulled the wire was at
starting line.
the water box.
Yeah, I've done that. So how did the car do then? What happened?
Well, most of the time when you do something like this, it never works out. This time it worked. The car won that round, and then which got us into the final.
That's awesome.
And it ended up winning the race.
That's awesome.
So yes.
So my reverser's been in the winner's circle.
Yes, the reverser's been in the winner circle. Yep.
That's very cool. Okay, before we get too ahead of ourselves, because this is an important component of this deal, is I told Randy the deal for the pit pass to bring your booze. Well, he just drove down tonight to the track, and so we're having to make a concession. We brought our booze for what he wanted, but the bottom line is we got the booze. That's what counts. So I asked him what he liked, and his favorite drink was a Cadillac margarita or moonshine. I thought, where the hell? I'm not going to Kentucky, Randy. I love you, but I'm not driving to Kentucky. How am I going to do this? So I thought, that Cadillac margarita is probably an easier pull for me to pull off. So that's what we're going to try. And we have a new component that's brand new this time. I had this idea that it would be slick if I could get these glasses made that were for the podcast with my name and Cool Kids Club podcast, and that whoever the guest is, we drinks out of this cup, and it's not going to change his lifestyle, but he gets to take the cup home as a commemorative deal for spending this time with me. So that's cool. I think it's cool.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm going to start mixing here, so you got to tell a story. So where are we going to start? What do you want to talk about?
Wow. Man, there's been a lot of water under the bridge.
There has. So you guys started. I remember you guys having a funny car in Super Duper Comp or something.
Yes,
Corvette.
I came where drag racing started with my dad, and I did not have. This is long before I ever had a driver's license and could actually drive. So while he's doing sand drags, eventually I'm old enough to take my high school car to high school drags. That turns into a super street car, 1090 car. Then what you're talking about is a funny car that I ran in Super Comp, where
yes,
dominated by by dragsters.
And, nobody runs funny car in Super Comp.
So I brought a funny car.
Of course, why not?
And after, and hats off to the super categories. After a few years of win losses by the thousandths of a second, I had enough. I had to get into a first one there wins class, and that just happened to be top alcohol.
my memory was at the time that you guys had lost a race because you broke out by 1,000th of a second or something.
Oh, multiple times.
So it wasn't once.
It wasn't, well born once. No, those guys, nowadays, I mean, that's what I do for a living. Is I strictly work on race cars.
Yeah, well,
build,
I sell
repair.
copiers, so there you go.
And so I got a lot of customers in those categories. And when they start talking about the package, the combination of how far off they are to the number and their reaction time, and you're talking about some of the,
it's nuts.
I mean, well under, let's see, be 200s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just phenomenal.
And those guys and gals can cut lights too.
Oh, if you have to be better than a 20 light.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So back to Cadillac Margarita. I've never had one, so I'm looking forward to this. But because I never had one, I didn't. I mean, I knew it had tequila, but other than that, I didn't know how to get there. So thank God for the Googles, and I found our ingredients. Hopefully, this is going to get us close, because I wouldn't know otherwise. So here we go. So that's what that is. That's my recipe for building this thing. So Super Comp didn't really make it worth the effort like you thought. So you move up to the first class where it's truly heads up. Whoever gets there first wins. Because they've got Comp Eliminator. It's a pseudo kind of deal.
Yes.
But it's crazy money as well. It's not like it's a inexpensive version. But it's still an index of sorts.
It's still an index because you'll race cars in other classes.
Yeah.
There's a handicap start.
Right. Yeah. And I agree. When I first got in, it didn't take me long to figure out I can't do that. It doesn't mean I'm better than anybody else. It just means I can't do that. It's not what I want to do at all. So I didn't. And so the top alcohol class is the only one that has Snowball's chance for me to be interested in it, and then to have talk about the Snowball's chance to be able to afford it, because this stuff is stupid expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But then, hey, well, let's go top fuel racing. Well, crap, I couldn't afford the air and the tires and those things. That's just beyond the pale. So you guys got rid of that car, and then because that was a Corvette body deal or something, the Super Comp car, do you remember?
No, actually, the body carried over.
Oh, it did? It was the same Trans Am?
Same Trans Am body.
I remember that. Okay.
Yep, yeah, that carried over, different chassis, of course, different power plant, all that changed. And when I first started top alcohol racing, I did it the absolute hardest possible way you could ever do it. You have a new driver, you have a new car, a new, oh boy, a new crew, and it's if you're going to make it difficult, that's the way to make it difficult.
Yeah, because there's no continuity, there's no nothing, and it's
nothing's
so hard.
Proven.
No. How'd you come up with the motor combo then? How'd you pick that?
The motor actually came from a boat racer.
Really?
Yeah, the original motor, the original motor I bought was, and back in drag boats, a 557 was real common. So I actually had to make some changes in the motor to make it smaller.
Okay, how small did you get it?
540.
540. Okay.
That was back in the day. You could run the 540. Nowadays, the current rules are 528.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wow. I didn't remember that, but I do remember the gorgeous blue Trans Am body car that you had. That funny car, real gorgeous blue. Where'd you come up with the color?
Factory color.
Of what?
Of GM factory color.
No
yeah.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
No, it was just a GM color. But yeah, we touched on the crash.
Yes.
And
what caused it?
Back in the day, before we had the single wheel parachute or single wheel wheelie bars,
yes,
we had double wheelie bars. Right. And the pilot chute actually got underneath the crossbar between those two wheels and lifted the back tires off the ground.
So it was truly just a fluke deal.
Truly a fluke.
Wow.
Yeah, and as a driver, there was no correcting it. You were along for the ride.
There's nothing you could have done about it.
No.
But so at that point, you'd worked your tail off to put this thing together.
Yes.
Probably many dimes you didn't have, and trying to make it work.
Anything extra I had, a vehicle, a motorcycle, whatever it took, to put a car together, and it was gone.
And it's all gone.
All gone. And so, so you have two options. You can, just basically deal with the moment, or you can, kind of sort of run away and hide from the crowd type of mentality.
Yeah.
We ended up we put the wreckage in the trailer, brought it back, opened the trailer,
Yeah.
and it was a mob scene.
Yeah.
We literally got rid of the entire body of the car.
Wow.
Well, you ended up with a piece of
I
it.
ended up with a piece of it that had your daughter's name. She's
Yeah.
a brand new baby at that
Yeah,
time.
oh yeah, yep.
And
yep.
yeah,
we just had her.
Had it all framed and whatnot. Yeah, it was crazy.
So yeah, no, we got rid of the entire body. People wanted a piece of broken fiberglass.
Isn't that crazy what fans want?
In amongst all that, signing fiberglass, talking people, going to the tower, talking on the mic about the crash.
Yeah.
A gentleman pulls my dad off to the side and asks if we'd be interested in sponsorship.
I remember that.
Was the beginnings of the sponsorship with the Dairy Farmers of Oregon.
Yeah. Sheldon.
Yep.
Pratt.
Yes.
May God rest
Yes.
his soul. He was a good man.
Yes, he was.
Such a good guy. Such a humble, good man. You just don't meet a lot of folks like that. Yeah, and I got to be there in those days and hanging out with you guys. It was so cool. And, talk about grace of God, because I don't know if you would have got that deal together if it hadn't happened that way.
They were looking. They had decided that they needed to do something exciting. Dealing with the normal image and advertising that milk or that type of beverage would do. They wanted to do something on the more extreme side.
Right.
So they had, and it's truly interesting listening to the marketing people how they decided on drag racing. I mean, even literally to the class of alcohol.
So they'd done that homework.
They had done all that homework.
So rare.
And so the CEO was wandering around the pits, just to look and
crazy.
evaluate, because so much of they still have to be conscientious of how you interact with the public or consumer. For them,
that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I remember that being a big deal.
Yes.
And my memory was that Sheldon, and I don't know who else was there, was so thoroughly impressed with how you handled yourself in the midst of such horrific things going on.
Yes. Oh yeah. Did I run away or did I bounce the helmet off the ground? No.
Profanity flying and
Yep. No, just basically spent time with the fans because I mean they are truly curious.
Oh, of course. So to have cool and exciting and extreme alcohol funny car racing, good, but to have an obnoxious ass, not so good for the milk brand.
Yes.
So you fit both of those, and it made perfect sense. I get it. So
because we were legitimately probably one of the slowest cars there.
It's true. You're brand new.
Oh yeah.
And that didn't bother them?
No. Nope.
Yeah,
now,
crazy.
Because you are new and untested, the first contracts were pretty. Actually, the first contracts were literally race to race.
I didn't remember that. Seriously.
The contracts were race to race.
I didn't know that.
And eventually, as they became more comfortable and had more faith in us, then it became multiple year contracts.
Well, I didn't know. Of course, that was none of my business, especially back then.
And they told us the marketing people were very upfront. They said a good marketing campaign runs 7 years tops, and it ended up going 10 years.
Oh, so I didn't know that either. Because I always wondered why it ended.
Oh yeah, no. At some point, you flooded the market.
Yeah.
Move to something else.
Gotcha. So you didn't do anything wrong.
No.
So as you're talking and I'm reading the ingredients, I realize I may have conflated one ingredient as being the other. So I had to double up on one for the one I don't have here. So good luck to us all. We'll see what we think of this. There's some high dollar booze in here. I just don't know if they go together like I would hope they would. But we'll all know here real quickly. All right. Oh, the other thing I'd tell him is, I hope you don't want a salted rim because I can't do that. I just came from the dang drag strip, and lucky that I got the clutch dust and grease out from under my eyeballs and armpits. So,
And then, as a continuation of, Sheldon.
Cheers.
Oh yes, thank you for having me.
This is awesome.
Yes.
Please go ahead. I could do that.
Yes. Yes. It has a sour note, and that's where like a salt would give it a little balance. But
Captain Lime, that's really good.
Oh yeah.
Damn, that's really good.
Yes, you did. You did all right.
Good, thank you. So if we get through a couple of these, we'll switch to my booze that I bring. But we'll start here. This is a good way to start. Sheldon, what were you gonna tell me?
So he had talked to my dad, and it was kind of left really open-ended. A friend of mine who I had sand raced with, he had already made the switch to alcohol funny car. He was actually having a new car built. He had bought a roller and put it together.
Yeah.
But he was like, okay, now I've got this experience. I'm going to put together a new car. So I knew that car was for sale. And, of course, that was Mike Gordon, which now his son, Doug, is multi-time national champion.
Really? How did
Yes.
I miss all this stuff? I'll be darned.
So called Mike up, and I said, I want your car. And he said, okay, well, and I think it was in a couple months he was going to be up at Yohara's shop. And he goes, I'll bring the car with me.
Did you know it was for sale? Or
Oh, yeah, I knew it was for
okay,
sale.
okay. So, forgive me, I don't mean to be rude, but the caliber of car that the Trans Am was compared to the caliber of car that you went into.
Yes, so it was more of an effort to show the dairy farmers we were serious.
Okay.
So really, even before the first contract was signed, we had this other car. The drivetrain was fine out of the Trans Am.
Right.
So when we actually had the next face-to-face, we had a fully assembled alcohol funny car ready. Okay, if you want to do this, what color do you want it?
Right. Wow, that's cool.
But it was just a way to prove yourself that you could come back after. It wasn't going to be if they signed say we sign a contract and something bad happens that you disappear.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool stuff. Now, back in that day, you were racing with your pop.
Yes.
And your brother.
Yes.
Russ. And we met because you guys were customers, copier machine customers
Yes.
of, at the time, Commercial Business Supply, which is the company that preceded this one. But then I bought the company in 92, and so I was servicing the account, stopped by and see how things were going. And I never forget walking in that shop, still the shop Russ works out of
Still
today.
same place
on Broadway here in Salem, and walking the back, and I saw that blue Trans Am bodied funny car in the back. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I had been out of racing since I was a little kid, and my dad had his dragster. But that planted that incurable disease, as our friend Butch Stetson calls
Yes.
it. And it's really hard to get over that. So I saw that, and I remember telling you guys, I'll clean the trailer, I'll wash the bottom of the trailer, whatever you want, but I would love to help you guys. And you guys were kind enough to bring me, because I didn't know which end of the car went down the track first. I didn't know anything. You think I'm dumb now? I was really dumb then.
We all didn't back then.
Yeah,
'Cause we were just on the learning side.
But you don't even know what you don't even know.
No, you had no idea.
No, because if you knew how much you didn't know, then we never even start. Like, oh, this is crazy. But you just work your way through it, and just too dumb to quit. That's something I'm not very good at. I'm not very good at quitting, and I probably should be better. But whether it's business or racing, I don't give up real easily. I keep persevering until you find a way. So you guys had the Trans Am, went into what was the body on the Gordon car.
Oh, the Gordon car, that was a Beretta.
Beretta.
That was a Beretta.
Yep. And a competitive car, competitive combo?
Not bad. It wasn't. It was a tick slower than the top cars.
Okay, now in this era, we're still Root Supercharger.
We're still Roots Supercharger. We're still in the sixes.
That's right, yes.
We're still in the sixes.
Low sixes, that's right. Okay, so now we'll fast forward a couple years to 95.
95.
Okay.
So 94, we were at, I believe it was Woodburn. I think it was Woodburn. Bucky, for whatever reason, Bucky Austin comes over and he says, you need to buy my car. And Bucky, every 2 years, Bucky gets a new car.
Yeah, we always used to just drool at how much money he had and all the cool stuff he had. He had the best of the best.
And it was a swindle built car, carbon fiber body, titanium trees. I mean, it was
Wow.
It was a super car.
Yeah, sure.
And and the typical salesman deal. Well, just sit in it.
Yeah, of course. I got bit by the same thing.
Yep. So sit in it. They drop the body.
Yep, and it's done.
Yep, it's done. But so we take the drivetrain out of the Beretta. Mm-hmm. We put in this Oldsmobile, and of course we're in the learning phase. We don't know what we don't know.
That's a huge problem.
But the car, we come out spring of 95.
Yeah.
And we come up, Woodburn has an early test session.
Yep.
They springtime's perfect. Air is super good.
Very good air.
Very good air. And I think we waited a weekend to try and let some of the other cars run down the track, put some rubber on there.
Yep.
The first run in the car, it runs somewhere in a low 6.0.
Wow.
And
That's a competitive run.
very competitive run, and it was actually that was with a pedal. It was actually
Really?
the car.
Oh my
it
God.
was kind. It had kind of a washout, I guess is what you'd want to say. Spun the tire, probably top of low gear, and the track record. As a matter of fact, Bucky had the track record at 599.
There's
So
a picture up in the tower.
Yes.
The Bucky signed with that first 599. I remember that. Yeah, it's
Yes.
still there.
So the second lap, it makes a nice, clean, straight lap, and I'm out of the car. You're on the other end, getting the gear off. Crew comes up, and they just have there's no emotion on their face, and it's just like, well, what did it run?
Yeah.
And then they tell me it went 96.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we took the track record, held on to it for a while.
That's cool.
There was another place we turned around and set another track record. I believe it's Yakima.
Yeah, I was there. I was there.
Made and Russ was driving at the time. Made a heck of a lap. I mean, it was. I think they were dabbling right around a 90 flat or maybe an 89.
Wow.
And in the final, we went to 86.
Oh, wow. That's cool. So at this time, seems to me, you have to correct the details here, but it seems to me the screw supercharger was beginning to make its way into the sport.
Yes, and we talked about it. We purposely, let's wait a year. Let's let them figure this out.
Because it wasn't just a PSI at that time.
Because I remember the very first PSI I saw was on Jim Epler's car.
Because Jim Epler was still in alcohol then.
Jim Epler was still in alcohol.
Right.
And at the time, I still worked for my dad, automotive shop, but I dabbled with race cars in the evening. And Jim had me do some work on the funny car. And he brought me into the trailer and showed me this, which would have been the first, probably would have been what PSI would have called the high speed. I think it was a 206. Okay. You have to forgive me but it was one. This was back when the PSI blower, the screw blowers, had cast rotors in there, which eventually led to them being banned for a while.
Right. Because the problem with cast rotors was?
Centrifugal forces at some point
is a bitch.
It comes apart.
Yeah, and they didn't even have good restraints then.
No. They were just the typical, four straps, hold the blower to the manifold.
Yeah, if we hold the blower on, what could possibly go wrong? And they learned.
They learned.
They sent shrapnel a long ways.
Oh, it just rained down, even in the pits.
So you said Epler, and the thing that I'm thinking is he ran fuel car. Well, I'd forgotten he had the alcohol car before that. So Epler is now world famous and always will be because
he went first to go 300
in the fuel funny car, and everybody knew John Force was going to do it.
Yep.
And a nobody in drag racing from Portland area. Where's he from?
Oh shoot,
somewhere, but not from Indianapolis, not from L.A.
Oh shoot, I've been to his house. I think only Kalama, I'm going to say.
Okay, so Northwest.
Yes.
Okay, and you've been to his house. I'll be doing anyway. So Rug Doctor sponsored car.
Yep.
It was in the museum.
Yep.
And
poor John Force.
Yeah.
Not only did he wasn't the first to 300, he wasn't the first to the fours. Chuck Etchell was.
That's right. Etchell was. That's right. So he got screwed out of both those. I don't think his life is suffering.
No. He's still doing all right.
Sleeping well.
Yes.
Yeah, hard to blame him. Anyway, but wow, just the interconnection is really cool. So, okay, in addition to the PSIs, there was another choice at that time, though.
No, the Whipple.
The Whipple.
Yes.
And who was responsible for bringing that in?
I think Walt was the first one with the Whipple.
Walt was the first one.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted one, you had to go through him. And I understood those things started as massive air pumps on buildings or something.
Yes, it was like an air pump from like Europe or Sweden or something like that. Yes.
And so he's the one that figured out, hey, we could strap this.
Art Whipple, I think, had more the initial vision of it.
Those things were huge.
They were. You needed a cherry picker to take it off the motor. No joke. They were by far the heaviest blower. I think the blower itself it had to have been 180-ish.
Oh, jeez.
It was
Jeez.
heavy.
That's nuts. So anyway, these screw chargers are coming out. Guys are running them. They're blowing up a lot of stuff. But when it ran,
Oh, it was fast.
it ran really well.
It was fast.
Because if you follow drag racing, you probably know this. And if you're on the edge, you may not know this, and it's okay. There's a lot of crap I don't know. With the Roots blower, they work great, but the way they work, there's stripping so that when the lobes turn, there's interference. They touch, and in fact, you got to replace the stripping. Well, because they touch, there's a lot of parasitic horsepower loss, like a lot.
Yes, you have the contact, which so now the blower takes horsepower to drive.
Yes,
but because of also contact, it tends to heat air.
It gets it hot.
So the PSIs that came along, it's not that they really pumped more air; it's they took less horsepower to drive
By a lot.
and
Air was cooler.
the air charge temp was cooler in the manifold.
both
So
of
you
those
you
are
were
huge.
literally bolting on 500 horsepower.
There you go. Big deal.
Yes.
But trying to get to know how to set the fuel up to match was a little tricky.
There was there was a lot to be learned. The blower, we were used to a Roots blower that it has a curve to it.
Yeah.
As it speeds up, it loses efficiency. Where the PSI, I don't know so much about the early ones, but our current blowers, I've heard 8% better than linear.
So if you didn't know that, though, going in, you're going to assume it's going to be similar to what you know. Then you're going to run out of fuel up top there.
Our
They're gonna go lean.
original fuel pumps, the Hillborns, the Enderleys,
Yep.
those pumps, they were a lot like a Roots blower. As they revved up, they had a curve to them where they finally the gear to gear pump. That when things are right, they're linear, double the RPM, double the output.
Right.
But there was a catch to that. The original pumps that were built and they didn't know it until it's like any racer, hey, if I rev it up farther, it's going to make more power. We reached a point, which was roughly 4,300 on the pump, where the pump cavitated.
Oh, that's not good.
Oh no, destroyed. I mean, I know of a lot of people. We did it. We destroyed a lot of aluminum.
Yeah.
And then somebody, the fuel pump bench, is normally filled with water soluble oil.
Okay.
When they flow it, water's real similar to the alcohol. Somebody finally got brave, and they took the bench and drained it and put methanol in it.
Okay.
But it's an electrical motor. There's arcing and stuff. They shoved it outside of the building.
Okay.
And they fired it up, and then they found that this pump it cavitates.
Yeah.
So when we started trying to go 9,000 and more, that's when we were destroying everything. The fix to the pump was actually fairly simple. You just had to. If you could envision the teeth of the pump, a tooth, the male female part, as it pulls open, there's a void there, and before it's actually came around and been exposed to the incoming fuel, so the methanol, given its vapor boiling point, it would boil, create an air pocket, which would then collapse when it came around to the pumps, pressure side of the fuel.
Yeah.
And so simply just give it a feed up the thrust plates to where, when that void started opening, it could pull fuel in parallel to the actual gear. And that eliminated the cavitation problem.
There's some smart people that
Oh,
figure
yeah.
this stuff out. That's
Yeah.
crazy. You try your drink here, Captain. I'm getting ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
So what I kind of remember was when these blowers started coming out, you could see the handwriting on the wall that I don't think the Roots blower was going to be around in top alcohol racing for very long.
No, not at all.
But it did take them a while to figure it out. So the Roots blowers got the interference rotors. Okay, this is really crude, but think of the difference between a coarse and a fine thread. And we got to really exaggerate that here. But with the Roots blower, the number of turns, you had the high helix, so it had a little
Yes.
more turn to it per foot or per whatever.
Well, and then with the change in the bottom case, it used to be a root style blower would just basically paddle the air from above to below.
Right.
And then with the added twist, with changing the bottom case instead of a big rectangular opening to a pie-shaped opening.
Pie-shape.
They turned it into a pump, an air pump.
Okay. And it was way more efficient.
Way more efficient.
Okay, so that's the Roots blower that we had forever, and it's still part of Top Fuel Racing. That's all they can have, and there's a lot of them in the sportsman classes too. But the screw blower, then, think of a really fine thread, so it's got way more turns per foot per whatever, but there's no stripping on those rotors.
No. Well, there actually is.
Is there?
There is some stripping in there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But the rotors don't touch.
No.
So you can go up to
the touch is they have it really close tolerance to the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you if the blower belt was off.
On
a Roots car and a PSI car, you go up to the Roots. You're gonna have to have a big ratchet to turn
the current Top Fuel cars.
Yeah.
If you were to put a torque wrench on them after they've been stripped,
Yep.
100 pounds of torque to turn a blower. Where the screw blower, you can just
you
just
can wing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy. So there's a huge difference, and so the difference in the temperature of the air is really a big deal.
Oh yeah. And doesn't matter. It can be a Briggs and Stratton.
Yes.
It could be one of our 10 degrees in the manifold is 1% horsepower.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Heard that.
It's across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every 10 degrees, you make the intake charge cooler.
Yeah.
You'll gain 1% horsepower.
I'll be darned. That adds up. That's cool. So the reason we're getting so in the weeds on this is because it's going to matter to the story here real quick. That's why I'm getting this detail. So the class was converting over to that, and now we head to the Seattle National Event.
Yes.
In 1995.
1995.
And you were still waiting for everybody to sort out what was going to happen.
Oh, I was watching, and because of buying the car from Bucky and knowing some of the now we've been in the class for a handful of years, and so you get to know people, and in the evening time you get to talk and stuff, and we were watching these guys, and we were watching the struggles, and we were one of the lone holdouts as far as still running the Roots blower.
That's what I want to
and
ask.
it's not like they they weren't at the time, they weren't running away from us yet. We were still competitive.
Yeah. Okay. But we show up. You probably don't remember how many cars were there. It's a 16-car field national event. But I don't know how many cars were there then.
I couldn't tell you how many
But
were there.
any idea how many of them still had Roots blowers? Some, none, most?
Oh, that's a good question. At best, 50-50. At best. And it might have been, there might have been more screws.
So that was my thought. So now we start working through qualifying. Remember where you were at?
Oh, I want to say we were upper half.
Okay, top half of the field's big
I'm
deal.
going to probably say 6.
Okay, big deal being the top half of the field. So, because you're going to get to race somebody who's in the bottom half of the field, and there's a theoretical advantage there unless they find something. But anyway, so round one.
Round one, Bucky Austin, the guy that sold me the car.
Oh man!
And it was Bucky was struggling. It was bad. Of course, national event. You have Winston Vision,
right?
And it shows the finish line.
Right. This is the jumbotron.
Yes, the jumbotron.
So you can make all your mistakes on this 800-foot screen.
Yes.
For God and everybody to know.
At the finish line, and I'm the only pitcher. I'm the only car in the picture.
Oh wow, that's how awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yep. Round two would have been the late Lou Grasparelli.
Really,
Yes.
Louis.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
Yeah. Rest his
Yes.
soul. He was a good man.
Yes.
But the Gasparelli family's still racing.
Still racing.
Yep. Steve.
Well,
seen
Steve's
that
not
car
so
out there.
much.
Chris Marshall drove it here years ago.
Drove the car for a while. I don't know that it's been out real recently.
Good people, good family folks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we get by Lou. Now we're on to the semis.
Pat Austin.
Second Austin. Pat had been world champ.
Oh yes.
More than once by then.
More than once by then.
So these guys are as badass as it gets.
Yes.
Okay. So you shouldn't win this round.
No, shouldn't win the
You're
round.
the new boy from Salem.
Well, so prior to that, we weren't really running that different from each other. As a matter of fact, I think we were both in qualifying. I think it was just you had to go to the thousandths of a second to for as far as who got what position.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah,
so semifinals, how'd you get around him?
Massive hole shot.
Really? So he outran you.
And I should say my light was okay. My light was pretty good. His
he screwed up.
Yeah. But he also went low ET of the event on that round with how bad
Wow.
that was. And and he still, like, now I married Kim and I moved up there,
Yep.
and so I'm around him a lot.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, I do work for him, and now his son Drew drives, and his son he still gives his dad a hard time.
Is that right?
Yeah, he still remind him that I beat him.
Wow, that's awesome.
And
Somewhere in here, and I don't remember when it happened, but we started having other issues with weather.
oh shoot, yeah, there's several rain delays. It actually, there was on the pro side, I know they weren't too fond of it because I think it was in Funny Car, they had started a session and then stopped it
Yeah, and
because of rain. And then, but I think John Force had lost to, I want to say Casey Spurlock.
Oh, wow.
And you could almost blame the weather.
Wow.
There was.
And
yeah.
I don't remember when they called it, but there was some point at which they called it.
Oh yes, that
Right.
turned into, and we're supposed to, we're working.
Yeah.
We go play on the weekend and then
But Monday
make sure
morning-
Monday morning you're at work.
So now what do we do? Because you've gone rounds.
Yes.
But they're calling it. And I remember driving home with Russ.
Yes, because the shop was, Dad stayed, I stayed, but we had to have the doors open, so Russ went.
So Russ and I drove home.
Yep.
And I don't remember how it happened, but I know that it didn't just get made
Well,
up
no,
on-
and yeah, we didn't get to make it up Monday.
No.
It washed out again. So
Right.
here we are Tuesday.
Tuesday, Russ and I come back up.
Oh yeah. So, but yeah, because we're actually looking pretty decent.
Yeah.
As far as where because the car, it was like a 6.0 something, I think is where we were at qualifying, but the track and the air came to us, and so we're running 90s basically like everybody else.
Wow.
And
So who's the final round?
final round, Larry Minor.
Really? Oh,
Now,
darned.
poor Larry, they were a tough car, but they blew it up. It blew up so bad it broke the windshield.
Oh, wow. That's bad.
It blew up so hard in the semis.
In the semis. So I remember that now. So they were having to thrash to get it together.
They were there's several crews over there thrashing
I'd forgotten all about
on
that.
patching
Holy
that
crap.
car back together.
Yeah. So they hustled and got up for the final round.
Got up, Larry, where was it? I think we pulled around, and NHRA is yelling at us to go, and yet we know they're thrashing, so we're dragging our feet. But yeah, we told Larry, just Minor, take a breath. We're gonna wait. So
That's unbelievably kind and good sportsman. There are people who would not do that.
it actually kind of worked out. It worked out. So where alcohol
But you
would
didn't know it
finish.
was going to work out.
Well, not only for us, but I'm talking about as far as a broader spectrum to the sport. Normally, the sportsman stuff finishes before the pro finals.
Right.
Well, they actually ran pro stock ahead of us.
Wow.
So Warren, this is back in the day, Warren Johnson. Warren won, which ended up being, I think it was I want to say the 400th win for Oldsmobile.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we used to actually get contingency money for the brand of body that we ran.
Oh, wow. I'll be darned.
Yeah. Whether it was, I think at the time there's, for Ford, I want to say it was the Thunderbird.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I'll be darned.
yeah.
So-
So yes, in the final, even Larry's best. They thrashed. One, just the little things that'll bite you. He does the burnout, and an injector. One of the safety straps to the injector, it gets sucked down
sucked
the
in.
blades, and it's holding the motor is revved up.
Way up.
It takes very little blade opening to rev these motors
Oh,
up.
God, yes.
And of course you can't do anything
No.
as a driver.
No.
And so they end up waving them off. And of course, at that time, I realized
You won.
we won.
You're on a single.
Yep,
How
on a single.
cool. How cool. So
we actually ended up being Oldsmobile's 401 first win.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, prior to what you're leading up to.
All that story to tell you that Randy Parker holds the record for being the last winner in Top Alcohol Funny Car of a car that had a roots blower.
Yes. From then on, it was no roots blowers won Top Alcohol.
Right. Right. So that's just, I think, a hell of an impressive badge of honor, something cool that he will always have. I think it's really impressive. Very cool. And I got to be there at the time. It was really cool. Got to be in the winner's circle.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was awesome.
Was it that morning or was it in a Monday evening? I think my dad called you guys and said, get up here.
Come on back.
Come on back.
And we hauled buns up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. Heck of a good memories. So that's one of the cool ones. So this is now mid-'90s.
So here's a side note. That event, 95 Seattle National event, Ron Cap's first national event win, driving
Really?
Roger Prim's stop fuel car.
And, wow, I didn't remember he won there. I remember him driving
Yes.
the car. I'll be darned. Wow, that's cool. A lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool memories. So now we're mid-'90s, obviously. I had bought my company a couple of years earlier, and I was so young and ignorant. I was 29 years old when I bought this thing, and I thought, man, I'm going to have so much money. I'm going to have my own alcohol funny car here in just days or weeks, and I was wrong. Oh, my God, way harder. But anyway, so I got to go racing with you guys for a while, and then my career took a different direction in driving and whatnot. But I got back into this because of you guys, and you guys gave me a shot to learn this stuff. It was one of the greatest days of my life. It was awesome, a lot of fun. And I'm really glad we got to do that. So I want to show a couple pictures so you can tell us a couple stories.
Oh,
here.
yeah. Well, you could continue that story on because from, after that, was it... When did you work for Hinkleman versus your alcohol dragster?
Yeah. So it was before the alcohol dragster.
Okay.
That was 96, so it had to be somewhere.
So it was right afterwards.
Yeah, it had to be. And so I remember going to Yakima with Rick and helping him on his
Oh,
car.
I remember. Yes, I remember an incident at Yakima.
There was an incident.
Yes,
so.
yes. Rick had to have the vehicle, the tow vehicle. Mm-hmm. It had to be on a certain side of the funny car, and I'm strapped in. I have a helmet, a head sock. So does he.
Yes.
Yet I can hear him perfectly.
Yes. Expressing his displeasure.
Yes.
At a high rate of speed. Yeah, he was not happy. I ended up getting fired, and after he threw a wrench at me. We're good friends now, but not so much then. I was asking a lot of questions in those days about how to do this because I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I don't think he liked all my questions. And I could be wrong, but that's the story I've always
Well, I'd done the same thing prior to building that car. You know, we had a local guy here, Donnie Holmes, and I went and worked on that car just to learn.
Yeah.
Knowing eventually where you're going to end up.
Because it's not like you can Google this crap. And back then, Google didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Mm-mm. You can't go to the library and look up an encyclopedia for how do you go top alcohol racing. Nope. So how do you learn this crap? There's only so many options. So if you go race with somebody, you can learn some of it. But they're not going to teach you how to tune the car. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's really challenging. So 96, I got the chassis, the dragster that was actually the Blaine and Ellen Johnson championship car.
Yep.
So I got that car, and then but I didn't have any motor, and so Russ wanted to drive really bad.
Yes.
Really bad. So bless his heart, and I don't blame him at all. He just was on the tire wanting to drive, and so we ended up with what I understood to be the spare motor from the funny car program. Mm-hmm. That went in the dragster. So in 1996, we took it out, and I got licensed then that year. So I got my six laps. That was the first car I'd ever driven. That's not true. It was a guy that worked for me. I drove his Nova, what it was, one time down the track. But outside of the dually, there wasn't much I'd ever done until I got in this 6-second car, and it wasn't real fast, but it's a lot faster than I'd ever been. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I got my license one weekend. Russ got to run a couple weekends, including a regional race. And we didn't go fast. We didn't know what we were doing. But by God, we're top alcohol racing.
Yes.
You know, it was so cool. So it was the coolest thing in the world. We had to borrow a trailer. I mean, we didn't have anything. It was just hideous. So anyway, that's what happened back then.
But remember, that car became Kim's first alcohol car.
That's right. You guys bought it. That's
yes,
right.
we bought it from you, and that became, because Kim, we had she had gotten bit. Well, she'd already been driving, and then when I met her and was looking at her dad's shop, there was a Brutz blower sitting on a bench. And it's like, what's that for? And it's like, well, we have these plans, and it's just like, well, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
Wow,
that
that's
was
awesome.
just put into like a today it wasn't called Top Dragster back then, but
Right.
in essence, that's what it was.
Right. Wow.
And so once we did that for a little while, then it was like, you need to be in a real, go to a real top alcohol dragster. And so,
Right.
yeah, they made the deal and
That's
bought
right.
your
I remember
car,
that.
and that became her first.
That's right.
Alcohol
I forgot
dragster.
that. God darn. So there is an awful lot of intersection connections. That's really
yes.
cool. Very cool. All right. See if I
Okay,
can find a
pictures.
picture here. Hey, that's my car. What do you think of that car? Yeah. All right. Where'd they go? Here we are. Okay. So this is a different racing service. And there you are.
That is the very last sand car. My dad, of course, when I was made, he sand raced. He didn't like bracket racing. He wanted, the idea of give me a rule book, I'll build a car.
Yep.
First one
Yep.
there
First one there.
advances.
Mhm.
So, first one was literally a early '70s K5 Blazer.
I heard of it. I never saw it.
It was the stock deal.
Steel car.
Steel, heavy, but had a heck of a motor in it.
Big block.
Big block, 427, but it was highly modified. And of course, to go fast, originally when we took the car to the track, we didn't have a trailer. We would show up at the track, and we would change the tires, take off. Back then they had you would unbolt the top, that big heavy fiberglass
Wait, are
top.
you saying you drove it to the track?
We drove it to the track. We took the top off. I mean, it advanced to the point. We took the top off. We took the doors off.
Wow.
We changed all 4 tires, and we took the exhaust off the thing.
I'll be
and
darned.
would race it, and then reassemble it to drive it back home.
I'll be darned. See,
That didn't last very long.
no, but that demonstrates some of the passion of what it takes to do this. You figured out you do what it takes. As stupid as it may sound now, but
Yep.
at the time, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's
Yep.
do this. This will work great.
Yep.
That's funny.
So yeah, that's the third version. I think you actually have a picture of the second version, because after that we took, and Dad had a car built. That's where I got the bug to build race cars.
Those are the pictures I've got. There's
Okay.
4.
I thought I sent the bug. So the gentleman that built it, our local speed shop guy, Steve Tepper.
Okay.
He built, this was back before the speed shop here in Salem. He built cars in his garage in the evenings. And I would purposely go home, get my homework done.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of evenings Dad would go over to his place.
Oh, wow.
And just watching Steve and how he built this
Right.
thing. That's, you talk about getting the bug as far as racing.
Right.
That was my bug as far as building.
That makes sense. Sure, that's cool. Very cool.
So we ran that car. The third one I actually built. That was one of mine.
Okay. So why'd you get out of sand racing to go to the asphalt?
Just the class had dried up. There wasn't, when we first started that third car, when we first started it, there was 6+ cars in the class. I think as high as 8. And by the end of it all, we were the only ones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The last time we actually ran that car, they put us with another car of a different class just to make runs in front of the spectators.
Wow.
It killed itself. The sand racing is nothing but, because it's only 300 feet.
Right,
So
right.
it's nothing but a bunch of RPM. People think about, being like beach sand. What we actually raced on was a little more like dirt and heavy river sand.
Gotcha.
Maybe even with a little clay. It was actually every bit as hard on the drivetrain as any asphalt car out there.
Wow.
But it literally.
I've
so
never been.
what that motor, that third car, the motor in it was big bore, short stroke, lots of RPM. I'd leave the starting line at like 9,000
Oh,
RPM.
you're kidding.
Oh no.
Oh my.
Well, you only had
God.
300 feet. And if the car worked right, it'd carry the front tires, 90 yards. It'd set the front tires just before the finish line and set the tires down.
Wow, that's cool. That's very cool.
But yeah, the Sprag is a B&J transmission.
Yeah.
Early B&J.
Yeah.
It rolled the Sprag and let the motor free rev.
Yeah. So the Sprag is essentially a one-way bearing,
Yes.
right? So if that lets go,
The motor went to the moon.
yeah,
Because I'm already leaving high.
Right.
It went to the moon, broke a small end of the connecting rod. Of course, this was an all aluminum big block Chevrolet, specifically built for racing. No OEM parts. That rod buzz sawed the motor. The final destruction is when it got through the sleeve and through the block, hit the camshaft, and literally hit the cam, and it pushed the cam up as it rolled through.
Oh, wow.
Splitting the block end to end. So the only thing holding the block together were the engine plates and the clutch can.
Oh my God! Wow.
So yeah, just destroyed. I mean, you destroyed the transmission and motor, and at that point, yeah, we sold the.
We're out of here.
Yeah, we're out. We're done.
So we move on talking about the dairy farmers.
Yes.
Let's get rid of this. Then this is the Oldsmobile.
That's the Olds we bought from Bucky. Good car. Was it besides the national event? Well, so we won the national event, and it would have been 2 weeks after that we won the regional right there at Seattle.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we won some other race with it too. It was a very, very competitive car.
Yeah.
Which was, and like you said, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Because we were literally, and back in that day, shortly after that, in Top Alcohol, we ran the same parts as the fuel guys. We would change, yes, we would change the displacement of the motor.
Right.
But in essence, it was change the compression, a little different camshaft, but the cylinder heads, the block.
That's right.
It was the same stuff.
That's
that
right.
was the when I started, the two sets of cylinder heads I had. One was from Kenny Bernstein, and the other set was from Daryl Gwynn.
Oh, be darned! I didn't remember. I remember they were fuel heads, but I didn't know where they came from.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, be darned.
And of course, now everything's specific for.
There's a difference between dragster and funny car.
Oh, there's a difference in like even roots versus screw.
Oh,
I mean,
wow, I didn't know that.
like intake manifolds now.
Yeah.
It's specific to what blower you have.
Wow, that's crazy. So, so past that, when did you and Kim marry?
98.
Okay, so 98, and somewhere in there you moved up to where you're at now, Puyallup.
Yes.
Okay, and so then you got the alcohol dragster from me.
Yes.
But you guys then changed to the car, the class, not the car, the class you had, or you're in now, the same class I'm in. I don't know why we keep getting that thing. I'm going to try to close that. But to run the nitro car,
Yes.
injected fuel car.
Well, we got the car from you, and
The alcohol car.
The alcohol car. I think we bought a motor. George Johnson
Oh,
bought a motor from him. First, Brad Anderson. I want to say stage 5 at that time.
yeah. Good parts.
Yeah. Back when we ran, dual mags. Because
I remember that.
We had,
That's
at the
right.
time we were just running a Mallory points mag.
Yes. And to find an alcohol car that ran dual mags, but there was that niche that it happened for a while.
Well, that's we knew we needed more ignition, but that's all that was the alternative. That's what we
right.
had to work with.
We didn't have a Mag 44 then.
No,
It didn't exist.
No.
Yeah.
no.
I remember that.
Yeah. No.
So, after the alcohol
Yeah.
dragster, why did you guys decide to make the change to the?
So there was one other alcohol dragster.
Yes,
I had
yes.
built. By that time, I was, more. I was working for Brad Hammond, but I actually had my own frame table. At Kim's dad's shop, I had my own. Basically, I had my own chassis shop at Kim's dad's shop.
That's cool. Okay, in case you don't know, Brad Hadman is one of the best chassis builders on the planet.
Learned a lot.
Exceptionally talented.
Yes.
He taught you a lot. He taught me a lot in the few hours I spent with him. He worked on the car that I have now several years ago now.
You know what? Side note, what I learned the most from him, and I have over the years, I go to people's shops, answer questions or advice or just whatever. And there are a multitude of, in guys' shops and garages, talented guys. What Brad taught me was how to do it fast enough that you could make a living at it.
Oh wow!
You think about it. If a guy's doing it, in the shop in the evenings, these builds take a couple of years or more.
Absolutely.
So now, and if you want to do it for a living and pay your bills, now you have to do it fast enough and good enough.
That makes sense.
You can make a living at it.
Knowing him, that makes a lot of sense. He's a hoot. He's really brilliant on this stuff.
By far the best boss I have ever had.
In fact, I'll tell you a story about tell you how good he was or is, except he's not building cars now.
Nope.
Anyway, Garrett, our friend Garrett Bateman, has an A-Fuel car Rick Hinkleman owned, Small World, and they were having trouble with the thing inconsistently taking the tire off, smoking the tires. You remember the story?
Oh, yeah.
So the car would haul ass and run okay, and the next run, blap, take tire off. And they go, we didn't change anything. So at some point, Garrett decided to call Brad and talk to him. They're on the phone. He doesn't have pictures or video or nothing. So he says, this is what it's doing. And I don't know what's wrong with this stupid car. And Brad says, go to the upright behind the fuel tank, and I want to say it was right side, but I don't know what side it was on. And he says, that's broke. Well's broke, tube's broke, something broke. And Gary goes, no, you're nuts, you're nuts. He goes, go look. So he goes and look, but he's looking for the welds to be broken.
Yeah.
And the welds weren't broken. So he's all puffy like, I told you. And all of a sudden something catches his eye, and the actual tube was broke, but it would sit. It wasn't broke straight across. It was kind of on a diagonal. So it would mate together.
Yeah.
And on some passes, it would catch and stick, and the car would run. But the moment it would slide by, it didn't allow the car to pick the front end up to transfer the weight to the back.
Yep.
So the front end would blap, sticks down, and now you don't have the weight on the rear end, and it takes tire off.
Yes.
He knew that on the phone.
Yes.
I mean, that's unbelievable. God.
The same thing will happen in Super Comp. The guys will notice that their 60 foots go away, and sure enough, go to the front, the next upright behind where all your A-arm stuff is. There'll be a crack.
It's crazy.
Yes.
So I just never forgot that story. Like, oh my God, to be that good would be really cool. Yep. So he's a very, very talented boy. Anyway, so you guys moved to the A-Fuel car because?
Okay. In the world of top alcohol,
yes,
it is. You run these things at RPM that is just absurd. Nothing lives.
No, and part of the reason is NHRA in their infinite wisdom to keep the cost down the sport or for parity or whatever, they say, well, we'll limit the blower speed.
Overdrive, yeah.
Overdrive. So you can't spin the blower any faster. And everybody who has one of these cars is obviously smarter than everybody in the NHRA. So they know, okay, if you're not going to let me spin the top pulley any faster, I can spin the bottom pulley faster, which will spin the top one faster.
Yep.
So we just rev them up more.
Yep.
So the cost doesn't go down; it goes up exponentially.
Oh yes.
Because you tear everything all up.
Yes. Nothing lives.
So in 1995, when you won, you're saying you're shifting at 9 or something.
I want to say that was probably like a 9400 thing.
Okay. And today.
Oh, the last alcohol funny car I drove, I shifted at 10.4.
This is nuts. This is a push rod big block Hemi motor.
Valve springs don't live. If you could get a dozen runs on the rods, that was great.
Wow.
That was great.
If you missed by one run, it made you pay badly.
Very badly. Well, main caps, 40, maybe 50 runs, and it had to have its main caps changed.
Wow, that's nuts.
And forget about valve springs and everything else. It's the parts are too heavy to go that fast.
Yes. So there's just practical limitations, the laws of physics. So Jerry Mattern, okay, Peen Wright car, Chris Demke driving, great people, good team, hauls ass. When Russ and I were together on my car back in 19, had a great time. Loved working with your brother. It was a hoot. One of the best times of my life. He ended up, he's a wheeler dealer. And
Yes, he is.
I love him. He ended up buying a pallet
Yes.
of valve springs from Jerry Mattern because they run that motor very competitively.
Yes.
And the price to do that is, I don't think they even checked the valve springs. They ran them for 2 runs, 10 runs, whatever it was, and they're out.
Yeah, change them.
Put new ones on. So you end up with a big pallet of valve springs. So Russ got all these, and he goes, look at all these valve springs I got. We know any pretty good.
Yes.
Like, well, if you don't spin it quite so hard, it probably work. But that cost us, didn't cost me, it cost him in the funny car because there was some coil bind issues that didn't get all figured out. So anyway, it kind of bit him. But I just never forgot how many valve springs there were because they change them so often. You have to.
Yes.
They don't live. They even ran titanium valve springs.
Yes.
To try to make it work.
It didn't work very well.
No. It didn't work.
The work hardening process. Yes, we broke a lot of valve springs.
Yeah. Then rod bolts were a big issue
Rod bolts are a big issue.
because now you've got the force on the bottom end of that thing goes up geometrically
With RPM.
with RPM. So it's like, well, it's only another 1,000 RPM. That's the same from 2,000 to 3,000 it is from 9 to 10, isn't it?
Yep.
No, not really.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
No.
So coming up with rod bolts that would live was a big deal, and they
Yes.
got better and better at
Yes. Well, one of the first stages were when we made the switch, put the L19 bolts in there,
it. Yes.
which a lot of people weren't in tune with the fact that the L19 material you couldn't handle with your hand with your bare hands.
That's right.
You had to either wear gloves
Yes.
or leave that thing oily. Do not wash it because the basically the sodium in your sweat,
Yes.
it would corrode the bolt and the bolt would break.
Unbelievable. I've heard that story, and I've heard of a lot of fasteners and parts that have been destroyed because people didn't understand
Yes.
that. Crazy stuff. So, but it shows you how exotic and erotic some of this stuff
Yes.
gets, trying to make this thing work.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy stuff.
Yep.
That's nuts. So, you
The logical thing. Yes.
so-
A fuel.
because Jerry Darian, a fuel guy I bought my
Oh,
car
yes.
from, he calls, what he calls alcohol cars, right?
No, I can't say that.
Part slingers.
Oh, yeah. No, he's right. He's dead right.
I remember you guys breaking a lot of parts.
Oh, it was, but nowadays, things are better nowadays. I
They
mean,
are.
yes,
They are.
yes, we have learned a lot as far as, what, and there's a long list as far as wrist pins and rod
Yeah.
bolts and, what is needed to run a motor at that speed.
Right.
And but the beauty is that A fuel deal at the finish line, the RPM
Is lower than what Joey leaves at the starting line with in his alcohol dragster.
well, it's basically the RPM when I was the last funny car I drove. That's about where I left the starting line.
It's
at.
crazy. So I don't know about your car. My A fuel car sees more. The highest RPM it sees on the run is in the burnout.
And the burnout. My driver likes burnouts.
Yes, she does. Bless her heart. So it's just a crazy class. The nitro, it works so well, makes so much power, and it can be quite reliable as long as
Yes.
you stay within these lines.
Yes.
And the lines are non-negotiable
No.
because it doesn't give a rat's ass
No.
how much money you spend, how hard you work, whether you afford it or not. If you step outside those lines, it will make you pay. Where's that picture you showed me of that
Oh,
Of the
it was
valve guide?
an intake valve guide and the intake spring seat.
So if you guys follow this at all, you probably have heard the horror stories about nitro cars that come apart. And all it takes is a shot glass of nitro in the motor when you hit the starter button, because nitro does not need spark to
Nope.
ignite.
Nope.
It needs heat and compression.
Yep.
So when you tow up there, the motor's already warmed up. There's our heat. Compression, obviously, as long as spark plugs in, it's got compression. And so it's such a huge deal for safety with these cars that we've got a procedure we follow,
Yes.
and it's non-negotiable.
Nope.
However, sometimes In my experience, it's never been one event that, okay, now we throw caution to the wind and screw it. That's not what happens. Something happens, and now we're behind schedule. So because we're behind schedule,
Yeah, for some reason you get sidetracked.
yes,
And the normal routine goes out the window.
right. And so, oh crap, now they're calling for us, so we got to hurry. So it's one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, and pretty soon you're in big trouble because you're outside the lines and don't even know it. So it happened on my car, but I didn't own it. Happened to Darian in my car, and he said it sent the scoop. It was aluminum scoop. I still got him out in the shop. Said it sent it 50 feet in the air, bit the cylinder head in a V from a shot glass of freaking nitro.
Yes.
It's nuts.
Yes.
But Timothy McVeigh, that asshole,
Yes.
is the one that knocked down the federal building in Oklahoma City. And I won't say God rest his soul. He's in hell where he belongs. But what he used in that Ryder van, whatever it was they call it racing fuel. It was 2 barrels of nitro. He bought the nitro from the same guy we were buying from.
Yes.
Sidebar. I don't know why they wouldn't think. So who are you and why are you putting nitro in the back of this pickup and hauling out? Where's your race car? And he didn't have one, but it's another story. But that nitro mixed with that fertilizer is just unbelievably powerful.
Oh.
It's crazy
Just
powerful.
Nitro by itself.
It's nuts how much power it has. Sidebar, ironically, nitromethane has less energy per unit than gasoline. However, the problem with gasoline is it takes so stinking much air to go with it, so that stoichiometric ratio, how much air per fuel, 14.7 with gasoline. I've been told methanol was 7 to 1 is what I was told.
Roughly, yes.
Okay, and nitro is
Oh,
2 to 1.
2 to 1, but we actually run the motors. I mean, the reality of where we run the motors is probably like 1.3.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Because the nitro brings oxygen with it.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not the fact that nitro has more energy than gasoline, and that confuses folks sometimes. It's the fact that we shove so damn much in there.
The guys, okay,
It's
so
crazy.
so some of the A-Fuel guys have actually put pitot tubes in the scoops. They're, the scoops on top of the injector.
Yep.
To measure airflow.
Yep.
And I've heard a couple different guys, and it's the same story, that when we hit the throttle,
Yep.
up to 1.5, bordering on 2 seconds, there's no air movement in that scoop. The oxygen for that motor is literally from the fuel.
Wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yes.
Oh my God. Wow. I hadn't heard that.
Yes. Because think about it, because you have all these. Dominantly, we have each cylinder has 3 nozzles, and one
circuit
idle,
manifold,
one idle,
two down nozzles right
yes.
on top of the intake valve that are checked until the pressure exceeds.
Yes. So high side.
Yep.
We're knocking on the door. We're like 30-ish pounds. Most guys check them about 35. So we're right on the border of opening up the downs. And then all of a sudden you hit the throttle and go 300 plus.
That's right.
And so if you can imagine, all of a sudden there's this massive spray.
Yeah, the fuel we put in is like 4 shower heads running
Yes.
wide open at once, and the crazy part is we'd put in 5 shower heads, but you got to burn it.
Yes,
If
yeah.
you don't burn it, it puts the fire out.
Yes.
and you only lose 500 horsepower per cylinder. You just can't afford to lose very many
No.
of them, because it starts hurting your performance pretty badly. But it's nuts how much fuel goes in these
Yes.
things. But that's why the A-Fuel car is the most dangerous car, in my opinion, in all of motorsports, just to start, more so than top fuel, because their compression ratio
The
is
compression
so much
ratio
lower.
it's almost double.
We're about double what theirs is.
Yeah.
That's right. So, yeah. So that's why theirs is, it's not that it's not dangerous, it's just less dangerous, but our compression's so high. So that safety deal that you can't have any fuel in there is a big deal. So we all have this safety routine that we're not supposed to violate, and we generally don't. But you were telling me before we started recording that whose car was it? Somebody you knew or didn't know?
Chris and Mike Morrell.
That's right.
I built them a Nitro Nostalgia funny car,
That's right.
and Mike rented the track at Sacramento,
Yes.
and me and my daughter Stephanie, we drove down, because he's like, I need you down here when we first run the car, as far as sorting stuff out. They were taught that you always see the jumper wires on the coils.
Yep.
That stop the ignition from happening.
Grounds the coil so it can't produce ignition until
Yep,
you're
no
ready.
ignition. Because we spin the motor. We get the motor spinning
Yep.
before we give it ignition.
Yep.
In this case, they were taught that the driver had control and would operate a mag switch.
Right.
The driver, Chris, once he put those gloves on, which in a funny car, imagine an oven mitt.
Yeah, that's what they're like. You just have these clods in the end of your hand.
So he couldn't operate the mag switch.
See, it's never one thing. It's a series of events.
It is. It's a series of events. He left the ignition hot.
Yep.
And
because he couldn't operate it.
And
what could possibly go wrong?
And we didn't know. I hit the starter.
So you were operating the starter.
I was up on the starter. Me and his dad.
Oh my God.
His dad fed it fuel.
Yeah.
And
You're
and
lucky
I
to
hit
be
the
alive.
Oh. So yes, I hit the trigger. I kid you not. It was the second revolution, and this thing blew up. So the picture I showed Gregg was, this intake valve guide.
I couldn't even tell what it was.
No,
it
most
like
people.
A valve guide.
I kept the part. I have it at the shop on the bench,
cool.
along with some of our other destroyed stuff. You hand it to somebody, and most people can't identify it.
Right.
So anyway, this thing blew up. That piece of head. Actually, not only did it broke from the head.
Yep.
It went through the valve cover.
Through the valve cover.
Through the body.
The fiberglass body of the funny car.
Yes, it went through the fiberglass body. And it's amazing we didn't hurt somebody. And
tell about the push rods.
So the tower, sided in T111, there's push rods stuck in the side of the tower.
It's like missiles.
Oh,
They
yes.
didn't kill somebody.
It is. And there's so many times we see pictures of destruction in drag racing, blown up clutches and stuff. And it's truly amazing. More people haven't been hurt than
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I made this part in Yakima in my car many, many moons ago.
Oh, yes. I was admiring that.
It's the only one I've ever seen that where we use the wrist pin as a knife to cut the connecting rod in half vertically. I've never seen that in a fuel car before, but I made this. I've offered to sell.
I actually have.
Have you?
I have one of these, this half.
Really?
Like that. Did it in top alcohol.
Really?
In an alcohol car.
Wow.
But, you talk about mistakes.
Yeah.
We, blown alcohol car, screw blower.
Okay.
Warming it up in the pits.
You did this on the jack stands?
No. The initial cause was on the jack stands. We were warming the car up. We were setting the timing up. The mag clamp broke.
Oh, that's going to be bad.
So the poor guy is hanging onto the mag to stop it from rotating. People reach in to grab the fuel shutoff, and Kim just there's commotion. So she reached over and hit the ignition, killed the motor by ignition.
Yeah.
So we reclamp it. We reclamp
So
the
that was
mag.
in
We
the
set.
pits? Okay.
Yeah. We set. Because you can do a pretty good job of static setting the mag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You get real close.
We go and start it, and a big column of fuel blows out. We didn't even cross our mind the possibility that the cylinder was full of fuel and hydraulic.
That's what I did here.
And of course, for alcohol, so anyway, basically what ended up happening is the cylinder was actually full of fuel. We started the motor. There's a big column of fuel, but that started the fracture in the rod. So when we actually on the run about 800-900 foot, it ended up finishing splitting the rod.
Wow.
So yes, I have the same. It's almost a mirror image of this, but done with alcohol.
Yeah. Well, it was nuts. That's what we did. We hydrauliced it, and it pushed the head. It took the head studs. They're supposed to be straight, and it sunk them in because it stretched.
Oh yes.
Stretched damn head studs. So now the head's up off the deck, and the block was split. So you could pull the sleeves out, and the oil pump was disconnected. Yeah, it did not make the on they walked away block list at all. It was in the dumpster.
It's amazing. Nitro is nuts. We had
it is nuts.
We had so it would have been a fuel line feeding a down nozzle, the down nozzle rail.
Yep.
At Vegas, it broke. That line broke.
Wow.
And it was on the hit of the throttle. And so, yes, the amount of damage, if you stop and you think about what the physics, because this thing, it went lean, it broke a head stud, it lifted the head and torched on the hit of a throttle.
That's nuts. That's nuts.
Yes. Oh yeah. If you stop and think about the physics, when these things blow up, it is unbelievable the amount of energy involved.
It is crazy. It's crazy. And as stupid as it is, part of that is the appeal that you can do this and haul ass and miss all that danger, but you're kind of flirting with it. But you can't break the rules because it'll make you pay so bad.
Yes. How many times have we seen guys, I'm trying to bring a name to my head. He was around in the, oh shoot. Anyway, I remember, was it Mike? He had a red dragster. Remember, he towed through the pits, and there were the pits. There was an uphill, downhill. The fuel shutoff was left on, and this is an A-fuel dragster.
Yep.
Fuel shutoff was left on, and so inadvertently, nitro had made its way into the motor.
That's all it takes.
Yep. And so they go and start it, and same, like broken record. How many times have we heard it? And it's just catastrophic damage.
So I started making some videos before I started this podcast deal. And I started sharing just some what I call nitro tech talks, is mag phasing or how the reverser works or whatever, just basic stuff. But they've been amazingly popular. I'm just stunned that people give a crap. I mean, I barely care, but it's been really cool. Anyway, I've developed a friendship with this guy in Australia who's got running this A-fuel car he's trying to put together. And he's got some challenges with some parts and stuff, but they're making a go of it. So I've got a lot of respect for him. So he's asked me a lot of technical questions. So he sent me this picture of his manifold and injector scoop from the barrel valve side. And the moment I saw that, my heart sank, because that line out of the barrel valve is perfectly flat going around the distribution block. So I started typing him this email response explaining why don't run this car. You could make this work, but you're going to add another layer of maintenance that you got to know that you know, and it's not worth it. Just make it down. Started doing that, and I realized he needs this info quicker than that. So I actually made a video, said, sorry if everybody else has had to watch this, but I need to talk to this guy in Australia. And anyway, he ended up thanking me for it, and he's fixed it now. But it's such a big deal, all this safety stuff that we do. It's just non-negotiable because nitro just don't care.
No.
At all.
No. It's looking for a reason to hurt you.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And when you worked hard and you're tired and your crew guys they mean well, but they're asking you questions, you get distracted. It's so stinking easy to make a mistake.
Yeah. Well, so, and we've seen it where if you want to say, you don't want to call it lazy, but you want to take the easy approach. And they're like, okay, we're going to win the motor and we're going to take out every other plug.
Yes.
And the mistake is made where you're not paying attention. You take 2 out of one cylinder and none out of the next one.
That's right. It has happened to us. That's exactly right.
And you just have to preach to these guys, and that's why I tell my crew, I even though they've been around, I constantly remind them, after this thing makes a run, it is a bomb.
Absolutely.
And it's waiting to go off. And the only way to defuse that bomb is take the spark plugs out.
It is. I don't know what you guys do at the top end. Chris takes the coupler out of the drive shaft so that
we actually have the brand of reverser that we run
has got a neutral.
Has a neutral in it.
Well, mine doesn't. We're talking about switching that over the winter, but we don't right now, so that's what we have to do. So now we're changing to my drink. So
okay, sounds good.
I like vodka, but I found this top shelf vodka. I wish they were sponsoring me, but they're not. But it's called Ciroc with a C, and I like it well enough. I can drink it neat, straight. But with a little tonic and a lime, I just think this is an incredibly refreshing summer drink. So cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, God, yeah, that's really good. I like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
So this is obviously in Vegas, given the big Vegas sign there.
Yep.
To pull the wheels off the ground like that is pretty impressive.
When we decided to make the change into the nitro world, we actually rented a car from Rick Hinkle.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Which was actually a former Dwayne Shields car.
Right.
So we
And
did
the car
that.
ran well.
It ran well. But I was, the tune-up was handed down to me, from Rick, which, I mean, I can't fault him. It's his stuff. But me being a tuner and a tinker and all this stuff, we decided we want to live and die by the call. So, and we almost bought that car.
I remember that.
But I also knew Cliff and Bax, and he had this car for sale, and I reached out to him and technology. I had reached out to him. I'm trying to think how I did it. I want to say I had called him or texted him, but he's an email guy.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we were literally up to the point of, handing Rick money when Cliff called.
Oh, no wonder
he's
Rick
like,
was that happy with you.
So he's like, and he's like, I see you, because I first met Cliff at Mission a long time ago and needed a blower belt.
Okay.
And so, yes, here's a blower belt. So that's how that all started.
Right.
And so pros and cons, between the two cars, we elected going with Cliff Steel. And so since then, it's a former Coletta car. It was actually a Coletta. They kind of brought in Chuck from Attack Race Cars to be in house, and so it's actually one of Chuck's cars. Where our current car is literally a Coletta car. Yeah, it was built. That one was in house, where that one was actually Chuck's.
Right. I understood. That's a lot of why Brad kind of got out of this, is because most everybody had the resources.
He saw the writing on the wall.
Right.
These guys were, just like, you look at Schumacher and Force and how much in house. I mean, motor.
It's blowers.
Yes.
Cylinder heads. Whatever you want.
Yes. Things are built in house.
I've been to Schumacher's. We went to PRI last year, and Trevor knows everybody. God bless him. It's pretty awesome. But he got us into Schumacher's, and not just to look at their stuff, although we did, but that was as Antron had left and do his own thing, and all the others that had left. And the point is, they ended up with a lot of parts that they were getting rid of. So I'm walking through this upstairs loft and looking at these parts, and I'm just drooling over everything.
Yes.
Oh my God! I came home with a titanium axle for my car. We had just talked to Strange about it, and they wanted $5,000 for this axle, and I paid a few $100s for this.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Nuts.
Yes.
Just nuts. So anyway, they treated us really well. Then you look down from this loft at all these Okuma machines. What are they?
All the CNC.
18 axes or some damn thing. I don't know what they are. But, oh, my God. And there's just a sea of them as far as you can see. It's nuts. And they can make anything.
Yes.
And they're now, that was a year ago, December, they were starting to make a fuel rod.
Yes.
And I'd love to work with them on that. But they had some really cool innovations in blocks that they were doing, too.
Yes.
How they capture the main caps in a real innovative way. I thought it was really cool.
Yes. The top fuel cars, of course, put a tremendous load on the crankshaft, way more than what we do.
Way more.
There's 4 bolts holding the main cap up, let alone the side bolts.
Right. They also had a male, female, a tab and a recess. So the rail that would be the pan rail, okay, is thick, and then it's got a notch in it, and the main cap has a tab that goes in that notch and fits tightly, so it locates that thing and helps it not move.
Yeah, move front to back.
It's crazy, but that's brilliant.
Yeah. But given the forces, I mean, we think that we beat on.
We're nothing.
Yes. Oh, no, compared to the top fuel world.
No, we're nothing. We're nothing. But anyway.
That car, and it, when you make a transition from one chassis to the other.
It's a learning curve.
Yes, that car.
Because even though they're supposed to be identical,
Well,
they're not going to want the same
they
thing.
are the car. You get the bodies off of them, and you know that there's two different
You
cars.
could make two cars one day and then the next, and they're still going to have different personalities.
Oh, absolutely. We when I worked for Brad, that was we heard that a lot. The guys, the Lee Beards, the Alan Johnsons, they would get a new car and they would actually do some checks. Things as simple as suspend the car, anchor the back of the car, suspend the car at the foot box, and then start adding weight onto the nose of it. How much weight does it create or how much weight is needed to create a 1-inch droop?
Wow.
And they would factor that into how they would set the car up.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yes. But yeah, that particular car liked a wheels up leave. And of course, it was there were times I actually have computer runs where there was 3 seconds of no front.
Are you serious?
3 seconds of no
Oh
front
my
wheel
God.
speed.
That's nuts. So on the computer graph, you can see this big stair step.
Yes.
Okay, when you see the stair step, the front wheel's in the air.
Yes.
It's not touching the ground. And he's talking about that stair step goes 3 seconds.
3
I've never done that.
seconds.
So just for reference, we're on a good run. We're at half track and about 3.5.
Yes.
Okay, so you're damn near at half.
Damn near half track on the rear tires.
At 225 miles an hour.
So
on the
we
rear tires.
we
That's
got
nuts.
well we got because that car did that. We got really specific on rear tire rollouts.
Okay.
Because we knew, as long, Kim is good about aiming the car, but it's only, you're only as good, the car's got to track straight.
Of course.
And different cars like different things as far as the difference. If, there's, I would say probably the majority of the guys that are doing the checks, the rollout checks, a lot of times they favor the right tire to be a little bigger, 1/8 inch, maybe 3/16. But it's something that you have to figure out. What does that car want? That particular car wanted dead nuts, right to left.
And why would this even possibly matter? Because of the amount of torque that motor makes is going to tilt it to the right, so it's always going to load the right tire.
Yes,
or the left.
Well, yeah, the rotation. Yes, it wants to plant the one tire. So, yes, the plant theoretically changes the rollout, even though.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It gets in the weeds there too.
Oh yes.
All right. So
yeah, you go down a rabbit hole.
You guys have been really successful. You've done really well. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Very awesome. So and so now, having left Brad, you have your own chassis shop.
Yes.
There in the
Puyallup, yeah.
But in the Mercedes shop deal, right?
My father-in-law was he's gracious enough to say, hey, if you want to set up a shop, you can have the back part of the building.
Who are your customers? What do you build? What's normal?
Oh, everything.
Dragsters, funny cars.
Bonneville.
So you don't have a specialty?
No,
like
hot rods. The most recent thing to leave the shop is it's a street car. It is a 32 Ford 3-window coupe.
That's cool.
No fenders. It's the body's actually fiberglass. So and it's yellow gel coat. So if you think of American Graffiti,
Yep.
the only difference is this has a blown 392 Hemi in it.
Oh, blown Hemi. Now that's
Cool.
cool.
And
That's cool.
the owner. So I got the car in a stage of assembly, and we did a bunch of upgrades to it. And he thought he was going to make horsepower. It turned out that the motor couldn't do it.
Really?
Even with the blower on it, the motor, we took it to the dyno, and it just didn't make power.
I'll be darned.
So he's like, I wanted to make, and actually, if you wanted a car to drive around to cruises and stuff, it was a perfect car.
Okay.
It was well behaved, but he wanted horsepower. So
horsepower, he wants 500, 1,000. Do that. What's he want?
700,
Okay.
650. He gave me a window of 650 to 700.
And a 392 blown couldn't make 600 horsepower?
And this is the thing, yeah, it has iron heads on it. It has OEM iron heads on it.
I'll be darned.
So what we ended up doing, I I didn't build the motor, but down the street at Wald Austin's race shop, they've done a multitude of 92s. They, it's like anybody, if you're doing big block Chevrolets, they have a program. They know what works.
Sure.
And so literally they did the motor. Now, granted, the heads are modified.
Yeah.
You could not do this on OEM heads.
Right.
But the heads are modified. They're still OEM castings. But yes, so we went to, when the motor was all put together, done, went back onto the hub dyno.
Yeah.
And yes, we are 700 at the flywheel.
Wow.
Now, and we have the a Mooneyham 871, kind of a street blower kit.
Yeah.
And I know the guy, Jeff, that owns Mooneyham, and he told me, hey, this is, for our mule motor. He told me what their mule motor did. And so, yeah, we went, we're like 19.5 over on the blower.
Okay.
We figured, okay, and it is, as far as horsepower and boost, at natural, our normal atmosphere is 14.96, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you go 15 pounds of boost and you double your naturally aspirated horsepower.
Right. That makes sense.
So yeah, if you're 400, then you'll make 800 if
That's
you go
cool.
15 pounds of boost.
That's cool.
So yeah, we knowing that, and knowing where we were going to be at boost wise, you knew going into it you were going to hit the mark. But anyway, yes, I have. You never know what's going in the door. We grew up in a time where there was kind of a local machine shop that would, if you had an odd project of machining or welding, and I get that. People walk in with some weird stuff.
That's funny. My Pro Mod came with a Mooneyham blower, but it was standard helix, and we needed to have more power, so we upgraded and had a Littlefield helix. But anyway, speaking of chassis dyno, or hub dyno,
Yes.
Yeah, you sent me a picture there. That's kind of dang cool.
That is actually, that's prior to us wiring the car up. Wiring it up. So I had actually taken an old set of headers. So not only did we have the race pack running, those headers have been modified for O2 sensors.
Really?
So we had all 8 with O2 sensors.
Oh my God.
And then that dyno actually has an interface cable between the race pack and the actual computer on the dyno.
Wow. I didn't know they could
So
do
yes,
that.
by
That's
the
cool.
time we actually got to the running part, there was wires laying all across the floor. So you're inside of a building, and we, in that case, an engine dyno, you have an engine on a stand, you stand outside of it,
in a different room.
looking through a wall, a glass wall,
Yep.
Operating the motor.
Yep.
And
From
if anybody's had the opportunity to be around a dyno, you stand beside these race cars at the track and you don't think twice.
Right.
But on the dyno, you're
gosh.
looking for a bench to duck under.
Yes.
So I actually had to, in this particular dyno, I actually had to get inside of that and run that car.
As if you're going down the track.
Yep. And of course, for those that know the PSI screw blowers, there's a burst panel that is staring you straight at the face. That when things go wrong.
But with the body on, the detail.
You have a distraction. You don't see it.
Well, that too. But there's that chimney deal
that
shoots it over out, not at you.
Yes.
Where's the body?
Yeah.
The trailer.
Yes.
So that's going to come where it's not designed to go.
Yes.
Back at you.
And you're in a building. You're not not even moving.
So loud.
Oh yes. And
Wow.
Granted, that dyno, there are cars that they say that you can literally make an entire run, low to high. They don't want you to, actually come off a trans brake and shock the thing.
Oh.
But, at least from the slow roll, make a pull. What they do down there at Waltz with that, it's called a high gear pull. So, what we'll do is we'll get, they'll fire it up. We'll get the thing, I'll start rolling it. I'll bring it up to actually 500 rear wheel horsepower.
Wow.
And then that's where we start to pull. That's when I'll go wide open throttle.
Wow.
And the other thing too is we don't want the clutch to slide there. So I put a bunch of clutch on there, more so than you would ever run at the racetrack.
Wow, that's crazy.
And you pick where do you want to shut it off at? That particular time we were shutting it off, I think 990, 200 or something like that.
Wow. So how much more power is there between 9200 and 104?
Oh, it keeps on going.
Yeah.
But for what we were doing, testing, or as far as seeing ignition, you don't do a lot of fuel changes on the dyno. Yes, we could keep leaning it down and making more power, but you take that tune up to the track and it just blow up. So the changes there are timing. We actually did one thing where we played with fuel temperature and alcohol. Granted, in the fuel world, temperature is important.
Oh boy!
But we actually played with temperature changes and what that would do with methanol.
What'd you see?
Actually, the best power was made where NHRA says 50 degrees. That's actually where best power is.
Seriously?
Yeah, you go colder, and it would actually start dropping temperature.
With methanol?
With methanol.
Not with nitro.
It did not like... Yeah, it did not like... We went as far as 30 degrees.
Okay. Nitro, however... likes it to be cold.
Yeah, but it gets back into more so air charge temp that we talked about.
That's what Darian always said.
Yes.
That the benefit of that was it would cool the air.
Yes.
So it's not what you think that, the fuel's denser and all that shit.
Yes. I think nitro, as far as a fundamental, as far as making it burn, it likes warmer. But in our case, in the dragster, or in A fuel, the more we can get, the colder we can get the intake charge, the more we can get past the intake valve and in the chamber.
Right. So, as Butch Stetson always says, everything's a compromise.
Yes, everything's a compromise.
So if you want that, you trade that.
Yes.
So there's no free lunch anywhere. Wow, it's crazy. That's really a cool picture, though. I'm glad you brought that. That's awesome.
Yes, that is. And for those that have actually got to climb inside of a car in that situation, it's a trip to be inside of a building with a motor screaming. And what you don't see on that picture is there's actually straps from the front of the chassis down into anchor points in the floor.
Right.
Because the more power that car makes, the more the car would arch.
Yes.
And you would watch the motor stand up higher. You would watch the front tires kind of get light.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow, that's nuts. That'd be a hoot to be there, though. Wow. So that's Walt Austin's shop.
Yes.
In Tacoma?
Tacoma.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy stuff. Very cool.
Yes. You talk about being fortunate, all the different things we get to experience.
Yeah.
With this racing world.
It's true. Absolutely true. The people we met, the relationships that we developed, open doors that you just never would have access to. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. Well, we talked about where, back in the day in the dairy farmer's car where I used to, race against Walt and of course Pat was his son was the driver and then Bucky.
Yeah.
And then to turn around and go up there and go to work because their cars were built at Habins, and so then you get to really know these guys, and
that's really cool.
And yeah, just what you first you make friends and just all the things that come about that. There was back when they were racing in the class, there was if I needed anything, I could go to their trailers.
That's cool.
And get it.
That's cool. Very cool. So what's next? Next year after? Where are you guys going with this deal?
Well, A fuel. I do have an A fuel funny car.
Yeah.
It's actually been in construction for a while.
Yes.
It's like anything else. It finding time to do it.
Right.
I haven't been able to afford to pay myself to do it.
So right. So the A-Fuel Funny Car, if you don't know, NHRA decided to allow the injected nitro motor in the alcohol funny car class that was only prior in the dragster class. There's been a lot of talk about that, pressure of that for a lot of years. They finally did it. But their initial rules
We're vague at best. There was actually some rules that contradicted each other, especially when it comes weight to cubic inch stuff.
I didn't see that.
Yes.
I just saw the ones that sucked.
Yeah.
Like the nitro percentage sucked. It was
Yeah.
too low.
Yep.
And downforce, you couldn't have any. And,
Right.
Oh, my God, I don't know how you can make this work. And a lot of people tried and couldn't make them work.
Yes.
But and they've been some relaxing on the rules.
Yes. Because they really are. They're working hard. I know I've had several conversations with the rules committee about the whole A-Fuel funny car.
Somebody told me just today in my trailer at Woodburn, and I should have paid attention, that somebody went 551
this weekend.
this weekend in
Yes.
an A-Fuel injected nitro funny
Yes.
car, which is huge.
It's
Because that's a
huge.
damn competitive number in a competitive blown alcohol car.
Yep.
It's a damn good number.
Yep.
So if they're doing that already,
Yes.
yikes, so their rules may go the other way. Ay, ay, ay. So where are you at on that? Is yours legal or going to be legal, or what are you doing?
No, it's gonna be legal. It's actually getting pretty close. Pretty much down to wiring and plumbing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. The one hard part compared to the dragster is the length of the dry shaft.
Yeah.
And where the manufacturer is like anybody in motorsports, the backlog on getting parts.
It's really tough.
So I was not able to get an input shaft built for having the reverser coupled right to the can, because the car I'm working with is a former Big Show car. So it's a 9/400 can.
Oh, wow.
So, but you can find input shafts that came out of the Big Show stuff that had a cannon. So then I had to. So what I was forced to do is build a spacer to simulate the cannon.
I'll be damned. So in Big Show, his top fuel, in Fuel Funny cars, so what makes the difference between an injected class, the A-Fuel class, versus the top fuel class? There's a bunch of little things, but the big things are, obviously, they get a blower that we don't. They have 500 cubic inches.
Yep.
We don't. Our motors are smaller. Mine's a 433 or 39, depending on the crankshaft I have in. And they get clutch management. And so the cannon he's talking about, that's what that is. So think of, if you had your 4-speed hot rod car out on the street and it had made so much power, all you do is smoke the tires when you take off. If your driver was really good with your 4-speed, that they could let the clutch off at a controlled rate so that they would apply plate load and clutch and power to the tires as they had momentum. That's really what a cannon does, just way more precisely and controllable, because it's pneumatic.
Yes.
Correct? So with air, they release that throw-out bearing off of the clutch fingers, and they've got clutch fingers that are the primaries and then secondaries and third dairies. I don't know how many dairies they have, but it's nuts. They're just way more sophisticated.
Yeah, typically 18 levers, and the car only leaves on 6 of them.
That's nuts. That's
And
just
so you
nuts.
have another 12 levers, and they're all staggered in height.
Yep.
That come in at different spots on the track as a throw-out bearing backs off and clears them.
Right. So as the crew chief, the tuner, sees that the track is better and better, then they're going to speed up the flow of that air to get that throw-up bearing to come off quicker.
Yep.
As
Get to lock up quicker.
Get to lock up quicker. As they see everybody in front of them smoking the tires, they're going to turn that
Yeah.
speed down, slow that thing down. So that's what the cannon does. So it makes perfect sense. He's got this big bell housing, because in the A-Fuel it's 8 5/8.
Yes.
And you got one that's way longer.
Yes.
Why is it longer? Because in the top fuel they have more discs in
More
the clutch.
discs, yep.
So
6 discs
6
now.
discs now. So yeah, 5 is passe. Nobody has that. Well, we have 4.
Yep.
Okay. I ran not on the racetrack, but I put 5 discs once. I had to do a display, and so I thought I'm not using up my good parts. I had a bunch of thin crap. But what could possibly go wrong? It actually worked. I digress. Anyway, so they've got more discs. They needed a longer bell housing. On the back of that, they bolt the cannon to control the throttle bearing, and then on the back of that's a reverser. So he doesn't need the cannon. That's not true. We'd love to have a cannon. We just not supposed to. Be awesome to have that. How much faster do you think an A-fuel car could go if we had clutch management? Couldn't you leave way harder and not take tire off?
I think if okay, say let's do an outlaw A fuel.
Right, exactly. When you got top fuel cars that run 840s to 60 foot.
Yes. Yeah. First,
that's not horsepower.
Yes.
We have enough power.
Yeah. First of all, I want 100%. I want to put the can.
Oh, hell
I want to put the can in the thing.
Hell yes.
And after that, I think yes, clutch management is going to be key on making that work.
Yeah, because right now we control the horsepower that the tires see, because we can't control the clutch.
No, we have no clutch adjustment.
And there are people that will cut their discs on a taper and think that's clutch management. And we've all okay, but as a practical matter, you really don't have anything. So we can control the ignition lead.
Yep.
Okay.
Ignition, fuel.
And fuel. So the more fuel you put in it, the more power it makes. So we can back the fuel down and we can back the lead down. The problem is when I look at the top fuel cars that are running 840s to 880s to 60 foot, and a good 60 foot for us is?
Oh, shoot. I must say the reality is mid-9s.
Yes. So a 940 is a decent one. 920, you're hauling ass.
I've gotten the car to haul, but situation, it has to be right.
Yeah.
Everything has to be perfect.
Yeah, and how much of that can you control? About 28%.
Yes.
The rest of it is the Lord and the racetrack operator. And as much as we love the Lord, the racetrack operator we don't trust at all, and you don't know what they're going to do.
Yep.
So it's just luck of the draw. Yep. Spin that wheel of destiny and hope you don't get screwed. So because of that, if we could come out with more power put into it, but control what that damn clutch would do, and not put that power to the tire, because all we do is take the tire off.
Yeah, we take the tire off. Yep.
Yeah. So we need that damn cannon. So let's call NHRA. They will never let that happen because they think we go too fast now. They will never. I don't see that ever happening. NHRA has decided long ago they don't want our A-fuel cars to go any faster.
Then there's always the magic 1 second slower than top fuel.
And a lot of it had to do, not specifically with us, but that we were making the big show cars look bad. Because there were races we could qualify for a damn top fuel field.
Yes, yeah.
And it seemed to me I remember somebody did that until they said you can't do that anymore.
Well, so my wife, Kim, has gone fast enough at the 1,000-foot mark to have her top fuel license.
Isn't that nuts?
Yes.
But it doesn't have a blower on it.
Nope. So they said she has to drive something with a blower on it.
Right. So those technicalities. Because what happened was you could win in top alcohol dragster and put your hands together, $5,000.
Well, I think it's still 45
plus contingency money,
which is nothing nowadays. Back in the day, a long time ago, there was a lot more contingency.
You could almost double your earnings.
Oh, there was more. You got more money out of contingency than you did NHRA.
It took you months to get it, but you would get it.
You would get it.
Okay. Anyway, so to win in our class is a little bit. To qualify and get your ass kicked in round one.
Yes, to be a first round duck. Yes.
You made way more money.
Yes.
So there was a point in time, I don't remember who did it, but somebody had took an A-fuel car and said, this is stupid, let's run it top fuel. And it wasn't illegal at that time.
Yes.
And he got his ass kicked in round one and laughed all the way to the bank.
Yes.
Screw you idiots. I think it's hilarious. But they did want to maintain some gap between the chump classes that we're in and their premier classes. And we make them look bad because the cars keep running better and better. So now that several cars are over 280 miles an hour,
yes,
are they going to let us go 300?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No. And the driving force probably is the insurance companies. Because every time a track puts on an event, the rate of insurance this is from what I've heard. the rate of insurance, what it cost them is based on how fast, what's your fastest car.
That's whatever they got to do. I'm not an insurance agent, but if they look at the safety record in our sport now versus whatever, pick your time. But I remember from when I got my car, I can point out that rule change happened because this happened.
Oh, absolutely.
So one of the first ones where I'd put the chromoly tubing that formed kind of a cone on the end of the foot box.
I can tell you how that happened.
Okay, because they don't want it to come to a dead stop.
I can tell you exactly when that happened.
All right.
Because that happened when I was working for Hadman.
Yeah.
We had watched there was, I think it was one of Tony Schumacher's crashes. And so the following Monday, Brad's, we were talking about that as far as, because the normal foot box was walled off dead straight.
That's right.
And so, yes, if you were to impact the wall, and the problem is the human body can only withstand so much, deceleration. And so when you come, to a dead stop that quick,
that's the problem.
The internal organs can't withstand it.
No, that shit keeps moving.
So, yeah,
does your brain.
Yes,
in your skull. Yeah, it's bad.
So yeah, we just started. Okay, well, what if? And that's how that happened. It's basically there as to, two things. One, if you hit dead on, it decelerates you. And then the other thing is
deflect. That's right. So I remember when that happened. I remember when the helmet shield came about. So,
yep.
And you know where that came from?
Clay Millican.
Darryl Russell.
No, it's Clay Millican. When the first version came from Clay Millican.
I don't know that story.
I think Mike Klober was tuning the car. Anyway, blower explosions. A piece of case hit Clay in the shoulder, and so that was same thing. When we was at Brad's, so we started shielding.
Okay.
Because the first shield was only at the 1 inch hook, hoop in the cage. The first version for Clay only went up to that 1 inch tube to protect his shoulders from shrapnel, blower explosions.
So when Darryl Russell lost his life,
yes,
okay, and what I understood happened,
wing strut,
but it happened because motor comes apart, cuts the tire.
Tire literally explodes.
Explodes because the centrifugal force when you cut it takes the wing out.
Yep.
Okay, and now that wing comes apart, and the diagonal wing strut comes through
at the driver.
Yep, and hits him in the helmet, and the helmet did not stop it.
No.
Very sad.
Yes.
Profoundly sad, and we lost a great guy.
Yes.
That's what I understood is when that helmet shield was required to go over the top and down.
And full cover. Yeah.
I didn't know it was an intermediate version. I didn't know that. So obviously Clay survived. He's still racing.
Yeah.
But Darryl did not, sadly. So there's that. There was others. I'm just not pulling them up now.
Every innovation across the board.
Somebody pays for it.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the best thing we can ever do is learn.
I can tell you one. 2010 Seattle, Mark Niver.
Yes.
Horrible tragedy.
Yes.
Because Mark was the best guy there was.
Oh, and arguably one of the smartest, innovative. Brilliant. The guy, he machined his own engine parts.
And his rear end case.
Yes.
And so the car was affectionately named the Billet Bullet because he machined. Instead of buying all the parts, he knew how to make them. It was incredible engineering. And a nice guy, and the car was fast.
Yes.
And when they had, it's been so long ago now, I'm going to forget some of the details, but as they had won a round of racing, the motor came apart, and it took out brakes or parachute brakes. And so somehow they got the motor fixed, and they didn't spend the time working on the deceleration part. And anyway, so when he made the pass and won and pulled the chutes go fluttering off.
The chute mounting fails on the car.
Yes, and so they come to the ground.
And then of course the brakes fail.
Right. And so Mark does what we've all been taught to do, to take it into the sand trap and into the net.
Go dead straight.
Big mistake.
In a dragster, yes.
In a dragster. And the reason, as horrible as this is to talk about, the reason is because we have a steering shaft. It's about 800 feet long and really strong. and so that's going to come back, and it got him.
Yeah.
So sad. Mark was such a good guy.
Yes.
I remember pitting next to him and bullshitting with him. He's just a really nice guy.
Yeah.
And brilliant, so brilliant. So, so now what we refer to them on our cars, they're the Niver straps.
Yes.
And they suck. We hate them because they're a huge pain in the ass. So now you could not attach the parachutes to the car anymore with the traditional bolts.
They bolt on.
Yeah.
But
So you don't have to do that anymore because these Niver straps, we call them,
now there's a secondary.
there's a secondary method to hold them on that it works great, but dear God, they're a pain in the ass
Yes.
to get on and off. So if you got to change a parachute, you'd better hope you got overnight to do it
Yes.
because it's horrible to do. So, but they work. So there's another rule change that happened because of that. So
Go back to the early days, the real early days. So the cars, the clutch,
garlets.
Well, so prior to that, they dump the clutch. Basically the car would smoke the tire the entire quarter mile.
That was your clutch. Was your tires?
Yeah, the clutch would just instantly lock up.
Right.
Their scatter shields were homemade aluminum, covers that spaced, that had a spacer. Basically, it would hold an input shaft, and of course, in that day, they were directly coupled to the rear end. There were no reversers, and
Right.
and of course, ironically, the first slipper clutch was solely by mistake. Somebody put a clutch disc in backwards.
Oh, isn't that funny?
So the clutch slid, and then the light bulb moment.
right.
And of course, as you slide the clutch, now these parts get hot. The original pieces that were cast
Right.
won't, just like the PSI rotors,
Right.
won't withstand centrifugal force and
Right,
heat.
right.
So they start blowing apart.
Right.
So
So-
now scatter shields
Yep.
and
So today, the bell housing on your car and my car is quite a piece of engineering because it's titanium.
Yes.
All of the 7/16 studs.
Yes.
It's about 800 amount. 30. I don't know. There's a lot of them on there. That's all we had when I started.
Yes.
And then it's been a lot of years ago. They now required that we had to add 4 more
The
ginormous
3/4,
3/4 inch bolts. Okay, big mofo's. So what they're trying to prevent is if you have a clutch explosion, the last thing they want is for that thing to catch that bell housing and break it free and start rotating the bell housing.
So now the inner liners
So
have
now-
a little tiny.
So
bolt.
we've got 2 steel liners inside there that have a single bolt on the bottom made of aluminum because it's designed to shear. They want, if it's going to explode, they want that clutch to catch that liner and rotate that all you want, but don't rotate that down bell housing. Didn't Bucky get hurt?
So there was a time when the reversers in a funny car failed, and so what you would have a nice little cute chrome moly built reverser handle because you have to go forward, reverse.
Right.
Well, the transmission would fail. It would spin between your legs.
Yes.
And yes, Bucky damn near lost a foot over it.
Yes. But it was
And he wasn't the only one.
it was the shift lever that got
The
it.
shift lever, that forward and reverse shift lever.
Yeah.
So yes, being conscious of that. Yeah, when I build one, it's one of the flimsiest things there ever was. So I actually, it is one thing when I'm driving a car, but now that I've put my wife, and then since then put our daughter in a car.
Yep.
I actually had
See things a little differently.
Yes, you worry about things
That you didn't worry about when it was our fat ass in
Nope,
there.
not at all.
Well, we'll
but
figure
I did come up with a bracket that underneath the trans blanket, it was a bracket that bolted to the back of the reverser, and actually the straps. Justin at Dennis Taylor made me some straps, and they would actually, kind of a Chinese finger cuff.
Yes.
Handcuff. Anyway, it spiraled around underneath the blanket, and then all it did is just go on the blowbacks for the
Okay.
can.
Yeah.
So if the transmission broke behind its mounting flange,
Yes.
the transmission will rotate.
Okay.
And so I was trying to stop the transmission from rotating. Unfortunately, we've had it's been a while, but probably one of the more recent ones was our, up here, Dave Germain.
Yes.
He, that transmission rotated. The tower crushed his throttle foot, left foot, right foot. Crushed it and broke some bones. I mean, he survived it, but still.
On top of a transmission, most of them are pneumatically shifted.
Yes.
And so you've got to drive this fork down inside to split this apart and shift gears. So you can do that old school with a lever, but most of them are done with this tower that he's talking about that screws in. I've still got the lever that from my old Lenco Pro Mod transmission days that would screw into there and you put a fish scale on.
Oh, yeah, when you set the pack, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, sorry, digress there. So anyway, that tower screws in, and then depending on whether you've got Lenco or B&J, depends on how much air pressure it takes. The Lenco takes
150.
and the B&J takes over 400. So it takes different airlines. Anyway, if that transmission spins, you've got this anodized aluminum tower that's, I don't know, this big around or so, and it's probably that high or so. If that thing's coming around, it's not going to do you any good at all.
No, there's not a lot of foot room anyway.
No, there's no room.
Between the chassis and the transmission.
No, there's no room. So, yeah, you didn't want shit spinning around there very bad.
No.
So, another one. We lost Scott Coletta.
Yes.
And that's when we got the safety box.
Yep,
for
auto shutdown.
Auto shutdown. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
No.
I don't like drivers being lazy asses and letting that do the job for them.
They let...
I don't like that at all.
So at certain events, they have a transponder. I think it's 400 foot past the finish line. And yes, some drivers get lazy and just let the transponder trip the system so it takes care of the chutes and the fuel and the ignition.
So the story is, to me, there's still some unanswered questions and controversy here. The story was in 2008, I believe it was, when we horribly lost Scott Coletta. Great guy, great competitor. Fuel funny car.
Yes.
And something happened, the motor comes apart, and the thought was that he was no longer conscious. Okay.
Yeah.
And so not able to actively control.
And unfortunately, we've seen this in some other cars where the driver, for whatever reason, incapacitated.
Yep.
No longer in control.
Not there anymore. And so they go limp, foot can go on the throttle, so this thing's still climbing, acceleration. And when you get to the finish line, you just assume, well, obviously they're going to lift and throw the chutes out and get the brake. Not if they're unconscious or not. And then it's always a series of events.
Yep.
So we have that crap happening. At the same time, some Einstein decided the best place to put this crane is on the inside of the fence or the wall. Mm-hmm. What an idiot. I don't know whatever happened legally there, but you'd think there'd be some legal exposure there. So he hit that at a massively high rate of speed and sadly did not survive and make the They Walked Away video. Profoundly sad because it didn't have to happen.
No.
So that's when they changed from quarter-mile drag racing to 1,000 foot shortly after that, and they'll never go back. I think it's sad because to me, if the drivers, short of the Leahy safety box, keep that aside for a minute, we're just talking about how far we drive. 1,000 foot or quarter mile, if they're unconscious, it really doesn't make a difference. You could drive to half track. If they're unconscious, they're still freaking unconscious. Yes. It doesn't matter. But part of the problem they were having is bigger than this because in the 1950s and 60s, top fuel cars weighed 1,500 pounds and made 1,000, 1,500 horsepower. And so and they went 180, 200 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah. It was the prediction of they'll never go over 200.
Right, right. And so, God, so I don't want to forget this story, but with that in mind, in 1992, Bernstein goes first 300 to quarter mile. And now, 1992, first 300 mile an hour pass in quarter mile, okay? Now, they've already got their top 300 mile an hour club ready to be joined, and nobody's in it yet because it ain't at the quarter mile. It's freaking half track.
Eighth mile, yeah.
Oh, my God. And Brittany, of the top 10, I think she holds like 8 of them or some damn thing.
It's gotten really close.
Oh, God. She's been 299 at half track. They'll get it. That's nuts.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Anyway, so talking about speed. But back in the day, trying to stop a car that weighed 1,500 pounds going 200 miles an hour doesn't take near as much real estate. And so these drag strips are built, including Pomona, that are now landlocked, so they don't have any option to buy more real estate for a longer shutdown. So the shutdowns that were perfect.
No, there's a street at the end of this.
There's a street there. There's an airport there.
Yes.
So we got nowhere to go. So we got to get these damn things stopped. And so Pomona is known to be one of the shorter shutdown areas.
Absolutely.
I almost lost my car there. came this close. I'll tell you that story in a minute. And Trevor did a great job. Man, was he pissed when we got down there. He had no parachutes. Man, was he pissed. He should have been pissed. We screwed up. Anyway, so the tracks that would work back then, and I can't list all of them, some people can, but back east, there's a number of tracks that have been around a long time and would work for that era. But now you take a car that goes 330 miles an hour and weighs 2,600 pounds. The physics have changed radically, and they can stop them as long as everything works perfectly.
Yes.
So I haven't done the math for 330 miles an hour. I have done the math for 270 R class versus top fuel, and I can tell you that at speed, R class, when our drivers cross the finish line, you're covering a football field every 1 second.
Yes.
So you don't have a lot of seconds to jack around.
No, when things are going wrong.
Oh God, yes. Yeah. So that's why they're never gonna. Are you gonna see 350 in top fuel? They're not gonna let that happen.
No. So not only are there problems with space on shutting it down, with insurance companies,
Big bitch.
Goodyear is very opposed. Because they build these tires, and we talk about the centrifugal force.
So how much competition do we have in tires for our car?
Yes,
Goodyear's it. There is no plan B. That's it.
Yes, you talk about centrifugal force involved with
It's nuts
with the parts of the motor.
Yes,
tires are no different.
Oh God, no. So the tires have to be speed rated.
Yes,
and they're so damn big. So the further you get away from the center of that thing, the worse it gets.
The faster it's going.
Right. So our tires are 36 inches tall at the starting line.
Yeah, at the starting line.
But they're not that tall once you get moving because they grow a lot. And it's like having another gear.
Yeah, it's kind of like a transmission.
It kind of is.
Yeah.
So get up on the tire, and now the contact patch is no longer 17 inches. We're considerably less than that. But it works great. So, yeah, all that works together. So, speaking of really bright people, Dave Leahy, I don't know if you know him personally.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he's brilliant. So, back when we lost Scott, long story to get around to this, but back when we lost Scott, that's when they changed to 1,000 foot. I didn't really agree with that one, but everybody's got their opinion. But what did solve the problem, as opposed to the change of the length, what did solve the problem was we need the ability to stop these damn cars if the driver cannot, if they're incapacitated. So I remember there was talk in the day about, well, we need to give somebody a button to push at the starting line to shut them down. And then we figured, wait, time out. That's not going to work because somebody's going to hack into that.
Well, that in we know nitro. Once that motor's warm, it doesn't care about a spark plug.
No, it really doesn't. So you can shut the spark off, and
it's going to keep running.
Fuck you. It don't care.
Yeah, all the old stories of running over the mags and the burnout.
Yes,
they're true.
Yes,
that motor will keep running.
Jerry's had that happen.
Yes,
drive over the mags.
Yes,
it keeps going. It's nuts. But as stupid as this is, that's kind of part of the appeal. Is the insanity of this?
Yes.
It's just freaking nuts. So if you can figure out how to harness all that crap and get the thing to pack the front end like your car would, and haul ass, and turn a wind light on or run at an incredible ET in mile an hour, it's unbelievably rewarding. Starting your spiritual is really cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So Leahy came up with this way. He owns a company called Electromotion. They have made the control boxes for our cars for years that would control the fuel in the mag, let you change mag or fuel on a timer. So he invented the safety box, and the idea was we all had to add a radio signal picker-upper, an antenna to the car that connected to the safety box. And then when you crossed the finish line, you had a very finite amount of time.
Yes.
You said 400 feet. I never knew the number. If you're going at speed, that's just over 1 second. So 4 feet sounds like a long ways, unless you're going to 70 or 80. So it don't take you long to get there. So all that to say, if the driver doesn't shut the car off, ignition, if they don't shut the fuel off, levers here, and if they don't throw the parachutes, my levers are here, then this device will. So they pass that on the wall, sends the bat signal and says shut all that shit off, and it does it, and it works. It works really well.
Yeah, and then they also, for the blower cars, they added the function of the thing blew the panels. during the run,
Yes.
it would set itself off.
You know, one of the dumbest things they ever did? I've talked to Darian about this a number of times. On an A-fuel car, you have to have the sensor
manifold, yep.
on the manifold. Okay, so the rule is so stupid. And Darian talked to him about, how are you going to build pressure with the blades open? How are you going to do that? And they made the rule anyway. What we're talking about is that we've got to have an air hose off the manifold that if we have 15 pounds of pressure,
Yes.
then it throws this switch that we have on the car that goes up to the safety box, and it'll throw all that shit out too. And it works, except how do you build boost in a manifold
Yeah.
with the blades wide open and it's sucking? How do you do that? And then Trade could never figure that out. So they just left the rule.
Yep.
And what I was told was, well, we make the alcohol cars do it.
Yes.
They have a blower.
Yes.
They don't have a blower, you idiots. And they didn't care. So it just seems so stupid to me. Oh, my God. Crazy times, but it's kind of comical. And it sure is very comical. Gary Eichmann always said that stands for not helping racers anymore. I've heard 7 or 8 other variations, but that was a good one. You know, they showed up in my pits in Pomona, and these 2 guys, and they were going to check my car to make sure we're legal. You know what they wanted to check? They didn't want to check cubic inches. They didn't want to check the nitro percentage. They wanted to know that I had really had a 290 rear end gear. And I said, are you shitting me? How, if I was going to cheat, how can I get a 270? Do you know anybody that builds one? If you couldn't even buy one. You'd have to buy 50 of them because
Yes.
nobody's making one.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Of all the places to look, you're looking in the wrong place, you idiots.
Yeah.
I just couldn't
Well,
believe.
when we ran, there was a Seattle race that we ran exceptional lap, and
You've done it more than once, Seattle race.
and so it was weird. There was not there was when that car rolled off of the track, it was never not accompanied with an official, NHRA official. And they did, luckily enough, it was the last qualifier of the day, and they did, it was everything.
Do you have to verify your cubic inches?
Bore stroke,
Yeah.
valve angle, lifter spacing,
Oh, come
rear
on.
gear,
Okay.
tire rollout, because we have,
Yes.
even though the tires can be stretched.
Yes.
So they even did made sure the tires did not exceed 118. You name it, they checked it.
Okay, 118. No way fuel car is going to put an 18-inch
No.
tire in
No,
that car.
they won't.
Ever.
No.
In fact, we used to have a specific, now we're getting into technical stuff, but some of my people enjoy this. Okay, tires. We used to have a tire that was an A-fuel tire. It was a 1230.
Yes, 1230 tire, yep.
2540, okay?
Yep.
Because people bitched about the chunking, the 1230s. Remember that?
Oh, that was that last generation. The generations prior to, or the batches prior to, is a great tire.
It was. It was a great
was.
tire. And you could tell because they had a real squared edge.
That last batch, though,
Didn't
oh,
work so good.
man.
So chunking the tires, so you'd go run the car, and if it was on a decent racetrack, you'd bring it back, and you'd go, what the hell happened to my tires? Because it would have 50-cent piece size chunks of rubber gone
Yes.
down to the cord.
Yep.
I won't ever forget being in Houston with Darian in 2008. He had both the Force girls, so I was down helping him, actually a number of races, very cool time in my life. And I saw Dwayne pull up with his car, and I look at these tires as he's driving by going, holy you're going to run those?
Yeah.
I'd never seen them before like this. And it went right down the track, didn't even care.
Yep.
Couldn't believe it. So I kind of got over it then. And so then people would see them on my car, and I go, I've seen way worse. It's no big deal. But they would chunk and pull all these chunks of rubber out. So their solution was to come up with a 2540. And the way that wouldn't chunk, it would just spin.
Yeah.
It would.
Yeah.
That'll solve the problem.
Yes.
They'll love this.
Yes.
So we just blow the tires off all the time, but they didn't chunk.
No.
So I told you that story, tell you this story. So from that, we started getting into the top fuel
tires, yeah.
Okay, and they had the rounded edges.
Yes.
They weren't squared off. And the story I was told was the reason they could keep them from chunking is they didn't put that on because that's where a lot of heat was
Yes.
held.
That square edge creates a lot of heat.
Crazy.
Yes.
Who'd have thought of that, right? But they get rid of that and boom, solves a lot of problems, I guess. So we start running top fuel tires. Okay, It is the same exact tire model number
Yes.
that's on Clay Milliken's and John Force's top fuel car. But it's probably not the same. They would never run the tires we do.
Oh no, I
explain
don't know
that.
about you. I when I go to the Goodyear trailer to buy tires, it's like, what's the shortest tire you got?
Exactly. Because even though these tires come out of a manufacturing process that should create equality across the board, does it?
No.
So the top fuel guys want the biggest tires they can get.
Yes.
Okay. We want the smallest. Tell everybody why.
It's just, it boils down to horsepower. I mean, we don't make that much, the horsepower that those guys do. The top fuel tire to an A fuel car, it's overtired.
Yes.
It is. It's not ideal.
That doesn't mean we can't smoke them.
Oh no, we can still smoke them. You can set the car up and just and even though you don't have any multiplication from a transmission, you have a 290 rear gear. You can smoke them at will.
You know what's crazy to me? You can smoke tires from being under horsepowered.
Oh, that and we're just like you, 432 inches.
Yep. It's a tiny little motor.
Yeah, little motor.
In the
Gobs
racing
of torque though.
Unbelievable torque. So the alcohol cars have a 4.5-inch stroke, this gombo stroke. So you can make torque with what? Vaseline in the fuel tank. It doesn't matter because the arm's so damn big. We got this tiny little arm.
Yes.
Started with 3,500. 421, 3,600, 433. I got a 3,650, 439. But the arm 3,600 is so small. How do you make torque?
Less than a factory motor.
Smaller than a factory Hemi that came out.
Yep.
Nuts. And yet we make so much torque because of the fuel in the tank.
Nitromethane.
That's it.
Oh, take the nitromethane out of the tank.
Yes.
Put in alcohol.
Yes.
And that motor won't even make a third of the power.
That's what I've said. I said I would be amazed it made 1,000 horsepower. So it's nuts. Because all the power is in the fuel.
Yes.
It's all in the fuel.
Yes.
So
and that's where in the nitro world, you need to figure out how to burn the fuel, not take it away. You take it away, you take away horsepower.
Right. So and that's why people who are really good at tuning alcohol cars and move over to A fuel cars get their ass handed to them for a long time because you lean them out. You can't lean out an A fuel car. If you don't have the fuel, you don't have the ability to go fast.
Yes.
You took the very thing away that it needs to go fast.
The fuel is the horsepower.
The fuel is the horsepower. You cannot do that. And that's so hard to do to get your head around that. You've done a remarkably good job.
Thank you.
Because if everybody knew what you did at Vegas, they would poop their pants. It's stunning. And there's some things we won't talk about, and that's one of them. But, oh, my God, I wish I could. It's stunning.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. Freaking brilliant. Randy's one of the smartest guys I know. So he's really smart, and I'm honored to call him a friend. So the safety box, that solved a lot of problems with the safety. So I don't understand what difference does it make whether they go 280, 290, 300, because fuel cars go faster than that on the same racetrack. So at a national event, because we can stop them now because of the safety box crap. The problem we had, let's see if I can show you a picture here quick. This problem we had is we had some family drama. We had my bride's brother was dying at a high rate of speed, just profoundly sad from the vaccine. And can I prove it? No, I can come that close to proving it because he wasn't sick till he got it. And anyway, that's another long story. But so she's down there and wanting to go home so bad. I was trying to find a flight to get her home. It was just hideous. But anyway, so distracted. And the chute pins didn't get pulled.
Oh.
It was our fault. Oh, we screwed up so bad. Ugh. And Trey wasn't thrilled either. They were not thrilled at all. Go figure. But check this picture out. Trevor's got this bitchin' camera on the car. Not 23. That was 21 or 20. God darn, I can't remember. Let's try this one. It's Pomona, I know. And Pomona's the one with the P, I think. And so I've got to find... That's it. That's it. So, so we'll start with the distant picture. So, what catches?
Oh, yes, yes. Not many people can think that carbon fiber will turn glowing red like steel.
Yes. And the brakes, were they fading? No, they work great.
Oh no, they work good.
They're amazing. But notice how close that safety net is there in the background, and that those are still packed. That was bad.
Yes.
Check this out. He's got this GoPro 360 so he can point it any direction. Isn't that amazing? So those rotors are glowing red. and I've never been so thankful to have carbon fiber brakes in my life. They work amazing. They're stunningly good.
Yes.
I've
As long as they're maintenance.
yes, that too.
I had an issue in a funny car where the front brakes hadn't been, and a pad broke.
Broke? How'd
Yes.
you do that?
Well, it got so thin. The
Oh,
little
okay,
eyelets
okay.
on the top that hold them.
Yeah.
It broke free and wedged the front tire.
That'll be bad.
Yes. So one of your front tires, and this is in the shutdown, chutes come out, reach over, grab a brake, and then all of a sudden one of your front tires locks.
Stop steering. Oh, man, that's going to cause a steering problem.
Yes. It wants to pull you into a wall.
Turn hard.
Yes, it wants to turn you. So, in a split second, you got to decide how you're going to deal with this thing.
Yeah.
So I grabbed as much brake as I could.
Yep.
So, because I wanted to lock up, basically I wanted to lock up the other side.
Right.
And, it's like, you can always buy tires.
Right.
But it keeps the car off the wall.
Exactly. And it worked?
It worked.
That's awesome.
It came sliding to a stop. The car, and when you do something like that, you're smoke. I mean, you smoke rolling off the you stop in the middle of the track, and the safety people come out, and you're like something because you haven't had a chance to get out and look, but something went wrong.
Yeah.
And the car wouldn't move until it got rocked and get the pieces moved.
Wow.
So yes, there's times when you have a split second to decide.
But see, that's one of the things that proves the point of how critical it is to have a driver that's as skilled. Randy's one of the best drivers ever. To have the skill, to have the presence of mind, to understand nuanced things that happen at a very high rate of speed. And not only, somebody asked me a long ago when I was driving, "Oh my God, you must have to have lightning reaction skills." I said, "Well, it helps to react quickly, but it helps even better to react correctly."
Yes.
Because I've seen people do dumb things at a high rate of speed
Yes.
and cause problems.
And you're not always depending. You talk about a series of things that go wrong.
Yes.
And just like that one crash in the funny car, it was beyond. There was no saving it.
Right.
I determined that when I determined that I was along for the ride, that this thing wasn't going to stop until it hit something. Mm-hmm. I actually, because you hear that the butterfly, that butterfly steering wheel,
yep.
and it getting ripped out of your hands,
yep.
and breaking finger.
Yep.
And I let go of the wheel and basically grabbed hold of my shoulder straps, and knowing that I'll stop when I stop.
But okay, so you've got that, knowing there's nothing you can do. But now the next time, which was years later, but the next time, if you had any idea how fast this crap happens, it's hard to quantify and explain it in a manner that somebody could truly appreciate how quickly this crap happens. Mm-hmm. So to have that tire lock up and have you react quickly as that thing's pulling, it's not doing it sitting here having vodka tonics, for God's sake.
Oh no,
you're gonna pitch this thing in the wall.
Yes.
In seconds. You got
Yes.
a couple seconds. But to be able to know if I pull the brake and lock that tire up as that one
or
is,
try and lock them all up. Or
Right. right.
Slide this thing to a stop.
It's better than just having the one. To have that thought process go through your mind at that time is stunning.
Yeah.
And incredible that you're that skilled. But Randy is one of the best drivers I've ever seen. A lot of laps, a lot of intelligence, and a lot of this nuance that he understands. There's so many variables of things that can happen to you. In 2004, I proposed to my bride at the starting line of Woodburn Drag Strip. Very cool. And then, so we had a year to plan our wedding, and I drove my...
Yeah, I know. You drove the fuel car to the...
That was pretty cool. So, and the video's up on YouTube. Check it out. So, but just before the wedding, I'm at the Fall Classic, and they didn't have enough cars, so they said, well, would you mind if we ran you against Brian Howe? Now, Brian Howe's got one of the baddest alcohol funny cars around, and he could, at the time, and still does, whip up on most everybody, but he's probably not going to be able to do it to a dragster. We go quicker and faster than the funny cars do. So I thought, how cool would this be to be able to kick Brian Howe's ass, right? So I turned the knobs up a little more than I would have. Shouldn't have done that. So the car goes out, and the front end's in the air until it started shaking the tire. Mm-hmm. When it shook the tire, it slammed the front end to the ground, and the aluminum spindle that I had sheared off, that'd be this one right here. Okay, so now I've got my front tire is attached to this part, and that's all left on the car. And this comes back and glances off the windshield and damn near hits me in the head because we didn't have the big windshield on it that we have now. It was tiny, and it damn near hit me in the head. But I swear to you on everything holy, I can remember what went through my mind at the time is I'm out on him, it happened, bam, and now all of a sudden I lift off the throttle, and in the 1 second, I could show you on the computer, I was off throttle for 1 second, and in that time, I can tell you what I was thinking. If I put my foot down, it'll pick the front end up again.
Yes.
So what's the problem? It'll be fine.
Yes.
I still got one tire, and I can catch him and kick his ass. And then in that 1 second, you have the thought, wait a minute, time out. I'm going to have to lift at some point.
Yes.
Do I want to lift now at 120 or 250 or 60 or whatever it would have been at the time? Oh, that would really suck. So, shit. So I stayed off, and that's the only time I began pulling the brake was after that thought process. I just hated losing like that. So just the stuff that goes through your mind in such a short time is incredible.
Yes.
But I made the right decision. Got my ass kicked, but I made the right decision to get out of it and save it. We got that thing turned around, and we made the next session. It's got steel spindles on it now, not aluminum. Trying to save weight everywhere is maybe not the best plan.
Yes. Unfortunately, I've seen that before.
Have you?
Yes.
So I'm not the first one to do that.
Nope. I've seen it happen with back in the day when Dwayne Shields was running a blown alcohol car.
Okay, finish your story. I got a Dwayne Shields story to tell you.
Oh, no. Clear down to a super comp car.
Wow. This is amazing. They're legal. Are they legal in our class still?
I don't know. I can't say that because I think I might know one manufacturer that might still make aluminum ones.
So, my Dwayne Shields story. Do you know that I'm the one that's responsible for Dwayne Shields having a fuel car?
No, I don't know this one.
It's true story. Because I've been in a trailer in the last few years when I was down helping Ronald McDonald, another A fuel car owner, bless his heart. I was trying to help him, and Dwayne came in the trailer and told Ron the story. So I verified this. Back in 2003, I was absolutely a nobody. Had just bought my car 3 years earlier, but I've got an A fuel car and it's running 30s. 37 was a good number at that time. It's not a hideous number now, but it was a good number then. But we had 100%. 100% could make dumb people look smarter, right?
Yeah.
Because it was way easier to go fast then than it is now. Anyway, so at the points race at Woodburn, he had his badass blown alcohol car, and I can't remember what he'd won, but it was not insignificant. He'd done really well.
Oh, yeah, he was a good runner.
Oh, God, yeah. And I beat him. And he looked at me and goes, who the hell is this pissant? Nobody. That's me. That I beat him. And he decided that he left and flew somewhere and decided, that's it. I've had it with this damn alcohol car. And that's when and why he changed to an A fuel car. Crazy story, but I think it's pretty cool.
Well, and this goes back to a little bit when some of the conversations I've had with the committee on when they were talking about A fuel funny car, talking about the problems of blown alcohol, high RPM, parts attrition, the wallet it takes to constantly feed it aluminum.
That's tough.
Where we've seen it in alcohol dragster, where you can do the A fuel thing, and as long as you respect the fuel, it gives a lower or a smaller budgeted team a fighting chance.
Right.
They can if they're smart and and you got to be smart. Keep track of what they're doing and the results. You can get a car to put out some pretty good numbers.
It's impressive.
Of course, the A fuel. The problem is to do it consistently.
It's very
lap after lap after lap.
Even though you think I've got all my notes, I know what all the numbers were, so put them right back. It'll repeat.
No.
And that's crazy.
People ask about tuning nitromethane. I said, you make suggestions.
And
what it does, it does.
So that's very true. It's very good. So Bartone.
Yes.
And the funny car that Sean Bellimer, an incredibly gifted driver, drives. He's very talented. Steve Boggs tunes it.
Yes.
I I don't know Bartone well at all. I know of him, but I'm telling you this from afar, and I could be wrong on some details, but I know. Do you have any idea how much money that car is fed annually to be competitive?
I don't know what kind of budget. I don't know if there is a limit.
I don't think there is. It's just astronomical. So it doesn't matter what it takes. So we won't speak of that car because I don't know for sure. But I know other cars that will spend $1.5 million a year
Oh, yeah.
to campaign the car.
And this is after you own it.
After you own the car, the
truck,
the trailer,
yes,
the spare parts, the shop. Okay, now let's go racing. You need to have 7-digit pockets for 1 year to go race.
Yes.
I can't do that.
No.
There's my Joe Biden whisper. I can't do that. Holy crap. But the folks that can, God bless them. But you're right. It takes it down to such a finite number of folks who would have those kind of resources. And they're out there.
Yeah.
And God bless them. But I'm just not one of them. So you're right. To have the A-Fuel category did open it up to other folks. That I couldn't campaign an alcohol car. And Joey does extremely well. But he got hooked up with the Whiteley folks back in the day when Jim had won the championship and decided he was going to hang his hat up. And Joey gets all that stuff. I'm waiting for that phone call to happen, and my phone ain't ringing.
Yeah.
But and I love Joey. He's done great.
And we're fortunate. We have my father-in-law. You know, he's one of his friends forever. It was ironic that he'd been around all, you know, he'd been around us. He's been around. I mean, you know, my father-in-law grew up with him and his brothers and stuff. And even though we had an alcohol car, you know, he's like, yeah, that's all right. But the moment we said, yeah, we're going to switch and we want to do A-Fuel. We want to run nitromethane. And you could just see the eyes open up. And he's like, what do you need?
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
So yes, besides us, I mean, he's been a huge influence.
That's awesome.
On you know, putting, because we talk, you know, if you reflect back early in the program, Sheldon, one of his kids, and you have to, the kid was probably 6 or 7 at the time when he looked at, you know, he's looking at all this drag race stuff, and he's like, and he made the statement as far as turning money into noise.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that is so accurate.
Yeah, that's what we do, and we're good at it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. Wow. Cool stories. What else we missed? Anything else we need to talk about?
Oh, I'm sure we could go on forever.
Yeah, well, we'll have you back. We can do this again anytime we want because we're the boss of us.
Yep.
We can do whatever. So, but this has been awesome. It's been a hoot. We're crazy to do this. I mean, the money, the time, the energy is just nuts. But when that car hauls ass, it's just so incredible.
Oh yeah, and I guess for the listener, we could go on lengthy stories as far as where, and I remember when I first started racing, I started thinking about, well, you know, I need to kind of save the car in qualifying, and no, you run the car as hard as it can, because the higher you qualify, the better. It just puts you in better odds of going farther.
Correct.
And we could probably have a complete podcast session on final rounds where these cars, they are on their last leg.
You know how many final rounds I've seen where the 8-second pass beats the 9-second
Oh,
pass?
yes. We've been there.
It's nuts. Like,
Yes.
wow, what happened? Well, we both kind of blew them up. There's nothing left.
Yep.
You got their tongues hanging out.
Oh, there's been, you know, like in the big show, the, you know, cars that they break, they're no longer running, and it turns into a coasting war.
Yes.
You know.
Well, Joey did that with Catley.
Yeah, that's right.
Seattle.
Yeah, even in alcohol,
10, 11, 12 seconds or something, but they were, the safety boxes had been pulled by both of them.
Yep.
And they were coasting, and I don't remember who won, but it was really cool. Very cool, because that crap happened. You're absolutely right. It's very cool. I had the privilege, I've not won a national event, I won some points races, but I had the privilege of taking your brother to the final round at Seattle in 2019, and we did well. We had a great day. It was so much fun. That is so unbelievably fulfilling.
Yes.
So cool.
Well, you realize, and not to take anything away from any competitor during the event, but you realize that's the only race of the day is the final round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, crazy. So we had started doing well at the national event. We went 540 with a 0 in Q3 and an E1. I couldn't do that again if you tried. 540 with a 0. Those were the last 540 passes I ran all year long. Every single pass for the rest of that year was a 530 or a 520. Every one of them. And I still am trying to get back there. So prayerfully we got things fixed. Spent a lot of money getting some parts fixed, and prayerfully we got this thing dialed. We'll know later this weekend. But to one of the best victories I've ever had in my life was in round 2 running Jasmine Salinas, a car that has unlimited funding.
Yes.
And they were relatively new then. But nonetheless, her father was a really nice guy. Mike Slee's top fuel car. But they've just got so much money.
Yeah.
Bless her heart. Anyway, the car at the time was tuned by Arthur Gallant.
Arthur Gallant, yeah.
Okay? World champ in A fuel.
Yep.
So at the time, you're thinking, wow, don't get any better than this. So unlimited money, and then world champ tuner, and then you got Gregg and Russ over the other lane. You don't have a freaking snowball's chance. But on that pass, Russ left on Jasmine and had a better light. And I tuned it, and I ran a better ET than Arthur Gallant did. And so that package together, we won. There was a bye in the semi,
Yes.
and we ended up in the final. So, and we got our ass kicked by Cowie, but it was a couple feet. We didn't step on our short wieners.
Yes.
It was a race.
Yeah.
And I wasn't good enough. But to get past Jasmine in that round 2, there's video footage of it that it was obvious I hadn't expected that. I was stunned.
There's been certain wins for both me and Kim where the only real, you had a really close race first round. And after that, opportunities came about, whether, say, somebody didn't come back, they were, the car was too wounded to come back. But after first round, it was kind of a cakewalk into the win.
That happens a lot, and it's amazing. You have to be there for that good luck to ever happen to you.
Yes.
It's not
there are wins you luck your way into.
Yes.
There are wins that are a struggle. There's wins that you just dominate.
Yeah. Crazy stuff.
Yep.
Good times. Well, there's our sunset picture of my car. It's probably a good time to sunset this deal. But I was talking with Tony Samsel recently, a world-class, unbelievably fast A-fuel car back on the East Coast, and talking about how hard we work at this, how much money we spend, and his text message to me ended with, I just love racing. It's all he wants to do is racing. Mm-hmm. I said, it's funny you say that, because I can get back to my shop with my truck and trailer, my dog, at the end of an outing, and it's just us, and I'm putting this crap away. And I swear I'm exhausted because I poured everything I am, my soul into this thing. And all I want to do is unload the car and start working to figure out how to make it do better next time.
Yep.
Is what I want to do. So I get it. I understand. It is the incurable disease, and you obviously got it before I did, but I followed you up. I'm honored you'd be here with me. This is such a thrill.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for the time. This is just awesome. I learned a lot of crap I didn't know. It's very cool. So we'll head it back out to the track. You're helping.
Ralph Hubert
with
Double B car.
Double B car.
Ralph. I helped him get started, and then he, business-wise, he sold the car. He's like, I had to step away because he sold the business, started another one. Figured he needed more time, or he needed a set amount of time. The new business took off. It went really well.
That's cool.
He called me up and he goes, I need another funny car. So we talked about scenarios, chassis from here, motor from there, dollars and cents. I had years previously, I'd built a Canadian car. I'd actually built 2 cars. One for me and one for this Canadian. He crashed his. And he called me up and turned around and bought mine.
Oh, wow.
I only got to drive this car like a couple races.
Wow.
And then he bought it. So, but in, years later, I knew he was done. The car was for sale. And so I just sent Ralph, I said, talk to Jimmy.
Gotcha.
That's cool. That you will not, bang for the buck. There's no way to get back in the game and spend. And he really did. He came out really well as far as what he spent and what he got.
That's tough. If a guy thought of if you had to start all over, I don't know if I could get back to where I'm at now. I mean, the journey's been incredible. When I started out, I just bought CBM, the copier company, and I can remember distinctly every payday you'd buy a set of wrenches or something, which is obscenely stupid now.
Yeah.
But it fed the dream.
Yes.
One more week that I'm that much closer. The first thing, this is so stupid. The first thing I ever bought was a case of brake clean, which was gone long before the first race car ever showed
Yes.
up. But I had brake, so they use brake clean on race cars. It's so cool. And then I bought this whole POS dually that looked like a circus truck, but it was lowered. Thought it never pulled a race car. Got rid of it, moved on. But just the passion and the dream you have so badly that you want to be out there doing this. It's just crazy the stuff you'll do. That was a good run for Trevor that we did at the night race, and the car did run really well. It had a 30-something there. And this is late now, so some of the people have left. But the stands are packed at that night race. It's really cool and a hoot. So we have a great time. Randy, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome.
Thank you, Greg.
We'll do this again, I trust, someday. Thank you for joining us. I'm thrilled you're here. The whole point of this was to create something that you guys want to be part of, that you guys are here at the table with us. I'll tell you the exact booze that we're drinking so you can have the exact same thing. Join us in your part of the Cool Kids Club, because if you're here, you too are a cool kid. I'm thrilled you're here. God bless you. You could be anywhere. If you're here with us, you're a cool kid. Thank you, man, for joining. Appreciate it. Awesome.
Awesome.
That's cool. Nothing wrong with that.